Chapter 316. When Mo Shi defeated his opponent, who was 5 levels higher than him, he sent his opponent flying. The crowd was in an uproar. 50% of the audience raised their hands in the air, screaming, shouting, and clapping. Awesome! He defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant. Has there ever been someone who defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant? One of a kind. Absolutely one of a kind. Heaven-defying, genius, pervert, demon. No words are enough to describe the World Society's leader. Don't stop me, I want to marry him, I want to have children with him. At the same time, on the platform beside the arena, all the bigwigs were also shocked. He defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant. If he grows up, his future will be limitless. Everyone, think about it, if he becomes a level 1 desolate hunter, then we... At this point, the boss did not continue. But the other bosses knew what he meant. If the World Society's leader were to become a level 1 desolate hunter one day, then these big shots wouldn't be his match at all. Lu Shuming was considering whether the World Society could be incorporated into the military's forces. If that was the case, the World Society would be able to obtain training resources provided by the military. And the military would also be able to obtain the combat power of the World Society's desolate hunters. This was a win-win situation for both sides. If the World Society's leader grew up, he would definitely be a boss. And he would be in existence that far surpassed the other 10 bosses. If the military were to be on good terms with such a person, there would be many benefits and no harm. In the eyes of the World Society members behind Mo Shi, these people's astonishment was nothing out of the ordinary. Too many strange things had happened to their leader, and they were already used to it. Next, the third round of the competition. 2 of the World Society's desolate hunters met other factions' desolate hunters. One of them won and one lost, and one of them was eliminated. As for Mo Shi, his opponent was a level 10 desolate hunter from one of the top 10 factions. Mo Shi still did not use his energy weapon. He only used his genetic weapon and sent that person flying out of the arena with a punch. Another round of thunderous applause and cheers rang out one after another. After 3 rounds, there were only 125 contestants left. Among these contestants, World Society accounted for 8 of them. These contestants were either level 10 hunters or level 1 hunters. Those below level 10 had basically been eliminated. Only Mo Shi was a level 5 hunter, and he could be called an outlier among the contestants. After 3 rounds of battle, the competition for the day ended here. The remaining rounds would be held tomorrow. Mo Shi led the World Club members away from the battle arena and found a more remote and quiet place to rest. Mo Shi gave each of the desolate hunters a bottle of recovery medicine. Although the current recovery potion was not very effective for desolate hunters, it was still very effective. However, it would also allow them to recover to their peak state within 2 hours. As for Mo Shi himself, he did not expend much energy today. With his physique, even without the use of recovery potions, he would be able to fully recover in a short period of time. The sun had set, and the temperature at Huichun Peak was much lower than during the day. For cultivators like Mo Shi, this was naturally not a problem. What Mo Shi was worried about was Happy. He asked with concern, "Happy, are you cold? If you are, put on a few more layers of clothes." Happy shook her head. "I'm not cold." As a god's oracle, even if she couldn't activate her abilities, the cold wouldn't affect her too much. Happy gestured to Mo Shi. "Brother Mo, I think I'm different." Mo Shi smiled and rubbed her head. "Tell me, what's different?" Happy gestured and said, "I'm not afraid of the miasma when I follow you up the mountain. Also, my physical strength seems to be much stronger than before. I just checked the temperature on the mountain. It's only about 3 degrees Celsius. However, I don't feel cold even though I'm wearing thin clothes." Mo Shi smiled and said, "You didn't really notice this recently, did you?" Happy looked at the stars in the sky and continued gestured. "When I was on Earth, I already noticed that something was wrong. My strength seems to have increased, and my memory seems to have improved. However, it wasn't too obvious back then, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. After coming to the Flaming Land, I seem to have become much stronger in all aspects compared to when I was on Earth." Saying this, Happy was silent for a moment. She continued to gesture with her hand. Brother Mo, do you think I'm sick? Mo sure laughed and said, Of course not. Of course not. It's because. At this point, he approached Happy and whispered, You're a God speaker. You're a God speaker. Happy was puzzled. He looked around, then carefully gestured and asked, A God speaker? What's that? Mo sure answered, A God speaker is a God speaker. A God speaker might not appear in hundreds or thousands of years. Even in the current Flaming Land, there are only legends of God speakers. No real God speaker has appeared. You're the first one. As he spoke, Mo sure sent all the information he knew about God speakers to Happy's multifunctional watch. Happy looked at the information about God speakers on the multifunctional watch. After a while, he looked at Mo sure in disbelief. He gestured with his hand. Brother Mo, am I really a God speaker? She actually knew that Mo sure would not lie to her. However, she really did not dare to believe it. She could not believe that she was such a powerful God speaker. As long as she said the word die, no matter how powerful the enemy was, they would be reduced to ashes. She had even saved the base before. She had always thought that she was a useless person. In order to not let others think that she was too useless, and to not let others think that Mr. Mo's woman was too useless, she had been working hard. She had never thought that she would be a God speaker and save the base like Brother Mo sure patted Happy's head again, and there was a gentle smile in his eyes. Don't think too much. You don't have to cultivate or anything. When the base or I need you, your God speaker ability will naturally awaken again. Happy nodded and gestured to Mo sure. Brother Mo, Happy is no longer a useless person. While Mo sure and Happy were talking, something else was happening on the other side. Some temporary tents had already been set up next to the venue of the competition. In these temporary tents were the leaders of various factions. In the tent of the Undying Village's village chief, a skinny old man in black reported to the village chief, Village chief, we couldn't find any clues about world society. In the tent of the White Lotus School of the Virgin, the White Lotus School of the Virgin sat on the bed, dressed in white. A White Lotus School of the Virgin whispered, Virgin, we couldn't find any clues about world society. The White Lotus School of the Virgin frowned slightly. After a while she said, Go. Tell the Virgin to work hard in her cultivation. This time, we must at least get into the top 8. Chapter 317. While the big shots of the other forces were racking their brains to find out all the information about the world society. In the largest tent, Commander Lu Shuming was sitting on the ground, flipping through documents. Even though he came to the martial arts tournament this time, he still brought some important documents with him. At this moment, a division commander strode in. He gave Lu Shuming a standard military salute. He said, Commander, we still haven't found any information about the world society. Lu Shuming withdrew his gaze from the documents and looked at the division commander. Tell me the details. The division commander nodded. Yes, Commander. I've asked our Army's intelligence network to do their best to collect information about the world society, and send them the images of several important figures of the world society. But so far, we haven't collected any information. This can only mean one thing. These people have never appeared as the world society before. To put it simply, the name World Society is probably a last-minute name they came up with. Lu Shuming nodded and asked. And? The division commander said. But according to the images of their leader, the woman beside him, and the child, we found records about them. They once went to the second hunting island, and according to the information we got from the Cheng family, the Cheng family was probably annihilated by them. Lu Shuming narrowed his eyes slightly. To be able to annihilate the entire Cheng family, it seems that their forces aren't ordinary. The division commander asked. They annihilated the Cheng family. Should we interfere? Lu Shuming shook his head and said. A while ago, the commander had made clear the division of our duties. Our duty as soldiers is to protect the lives and property of the people of Yuzhou, and at the same time, to maintain the integrity of the territory. As for the conflicts between the various sects, they're all internal conflicts in Yuzhou, and we'd better not interfere. Avoid excessive consumption. Yes, Commander. The division commander replied. Lu Shuming continued. Come with me to meet the leader of the World Society. The division commander replied. Yes. A moment later, Lu Shuming led the 2 division commanders to the camp of the World Society. When they arrived, the people of the World Society immediately guarded outside Mo Shi's tent. Mo Shi also noticed Lu Shuming's arrival, and a smile appeared on his lips. It seemed that his performance had attracted the attention of this big shot. Now that he was here, it was obvious that he had seen his potential, so he took the initiative to befriend him. As part of the military, they had always been dismissive of other forces. Even the top 10 forces had to lower their heads in front of the military. Now that Lu Shuming had taken the initiative to look for him, it seemed like he wanted to express his goodwill. As part of the military, they were actually willing to express goodwill to a newly established world society. As expected, their horizons had long surpassed the other forces. Mo Shi was very satisfied with this point of the military of Yuzhou province. Of course, being on good terms with the military of Yuzhou province would be of great help to Mo Shi and the world society. Thinking of this, Mo Shi immediately went out to greet him. He smiled and said, "So it's Commander Lu. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you." Lu Shuming also laughed. Gang leader Mo's World Club really shone brightly today. Mo Shi smiled and said, "You're flattering me. I was just lucky." The two exchanged a few pleasantries, and then Mo Shi led Lu Shuming into the tent. Lu Shuming was a soldier, and he liked to be straightforward. This was also to Mo Shi's liking. Therefore, apart from the few pleasantries at the beginning, the two went straight to the point after entering the tent. Lu Shuming said, "Gang leader Mo, do you have any intention of joining the military?" Mo Shi didn't beat around the bush and directly refused, "I've always been used to freedom. So I have no intention of joining the military for the time being." Lu Shuming persuaded, "Mr. Mo, the potential you have is far beyond your imagination. But if you want to fully stimulate your potential, you need a lot of resources. And these resources can be provided to you by the military. So please consider it," gang leader Mo Shi said. "Thank you for your kindness, Commander Lu. But I haven't decided to join the military for the time being." Lu Shuming was also a person with character. Although he had taken a fancy to a talent like Mo Shi, he wouldn't pester him. A look of regret appeared on his face, and he said, "That's a pity. But I hope we'll have a chance to work together in the future." Mo Shi nodded. "It's our world society's honor to work with the military." Since the negotiation didn't work out, Lu Shuming didn't stay any longer. In less than 10 minutes, he left Mo Shi's tent. At the same time, the news had already spread to the other factions. In the Chamber of Commerce's tent, Commander Lu of the military is meeting with gang leader Mo of the World Society. It's very likely that gang leader Mo will latch onto the military's thigh from today onwards. So we have to do something. Get someone to prepare a gift. After the martial arts tournament ends, I'll go see gang leader Mo immediately. In the Triple Gates tent, Sect Master Lin Yuxiang said, "Now that the World Society has latched onto the military's thigh, they'll grow into a very thick thigh in a very short time. Prepare a gift for me. I'll go see Sect Master Mo first thing tomorrow morning." In the Giant Eagle Gang's tent, "Prepare a gift for me. I'm going to see Sect Master Mo now." A few sects came to the World Society's tent that night, wanting to see Mo Shi. But Mo Shi had always liked peace and quiet. He told Emma to tell them that he still had to participate in the tournament the next day, so he needed to get enough sleep that night. Those factions could only leave resentfully. After sending off those factions, Mo Shi brought Happy into the Dragon's Cave. This was Happy's first time entering the Dragon's Cave, so he was very curious. Mo Shi said to Happy, "This is the safest place. Even if the world outside ends, no one will disturb you here. You can sleep safely here." Happy nodded and gestured with his hands. "Big brother Mo, you should sleep early too." While many factions treated the World Society as a thigh that was about to grow and wanted to latch onto them, there were also some factions that treated the World Society as their greatest enemy. They were here for the reward this time. Originally, they were still a little confident, but now, the World Society had sent out 9 desolate hunters at once. There was also a monster who, although not a desolate hunter, could instantly kill an opponent who was 5 ranks higher than him. This filled them with a sense of crisis, especially the 11th faction. This was especially true for the 11th ranked organization. They had originally sent out 2 hunters to participate in this mission. They had sent out 2 desolate hunters, and one of them was even a level 2 desolate hunter. They thought that with such a lineup, they could completely crush the other factions' lineups and win the championship. But they didn't expect that the World Society would appear. The appearance of the World Society greatly reduced their chances of winning the championship. Chapter 3:18. The 11th ranked faction was called the Fallen Feather Sword Sect. Once a cultivator reached a certain level, it would be extremely difficult for them to increase their level. At this time, many cultivators would shift their focus to the study of combat techniques and techniques. Thus, many different cultivation factions were born. There were factions that used guns and factions that used blades. There were factions that used bodyguards and factions that used swords. The reason why the Fallen Feather Sword Sect was called the Fallen Feather Sword Sect was because they possessed an extremely powerful sword technique. There was a saying, "Wherever the sword aura passes, the ground will be covered in feathers." Thus, it was called the Fallen Feather Sword Sect. In this martial arts tournament, the Fallen Feather Sword Sect had sent 2 Desolate Hunters to participate. There was even a level 2 Desolate Hunter. This was the strongest battle force in this martial arts tournament. This way, they could display their powerful strength and aim for the top 10 in the top 100 factions tournament. Secondly, they were determined to obtain the rewards of this martial arts tournament. However, the sect master of the Fallen Feather Sword Sect, Luo Chenqiu, was frowning slightly. In front of him were 2 higher-ups of the Fallen Feather Sword Sect. Seeing Luo Chenqiu's worried expression, one of the higher-ups asked, "Sect Master, what are you worried about with our lineup this time?" Luo Chenqiu smiled bitterly and shook his head. "The lineup this time is indeed very strong. However, the strength of the World Society has far exceeded my expectations." The other higher-up muttered to himself, "Sect Master, our level 2 Desolate Hunter should be the highest level among all the participants. Although the World Society is strong, none of them can contend against our level 2 Desolate Hunter." Luo Chenqiu still had a worried expression. "Even so, we can't let our guard down. What if the World Society still has a trump card? Therefore we have to have a backup plan." The 2 higher-ups looked at each other and said, "Sect Master, if we really can't do it, we'll let our level 2 Desolate Hunter use his strongest trump card." Luo Chenqiu was slightly startled when he heard this. It seemed like he couldn't make up his mind. One of the higher-ups said, "Sect Master, I know what you're worried about. The level 2 Desolate Hunter's strongest trump card is also our Fallen Feather Sword Sect's strongest trump card. If we reveal this trump card, it will be much easier for other factions to deal with us in the future." Luo Chenqiu nodded. Another higher-up said, "That's right. But sect leader, if we can squeeze into the top 10, our fame will increase greatly." The commercial value was self-evident. If we befriend the other top 10 forces in the future, not many forces will dare to touch us. Furthermore, if you become the champion, you will be rewarded. The incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. Both of them were priceless treasures that couldn't be bought with money. And if we're lucky enough to figure out the secret. When Luo Chenqiu heard this, his eyes lit up. A moment later, his brows finally relaxed. He seemed to have finally made up his mind. "We'll do as you say. Pass down my orders. Tell Zhao Huan to go all out and become the champion of this martial arts assembly." "Yes, sect leader." The next morning, he ate the breakfast he had prepared himself. Mo Shi and the others rushed to the arena once again. Even though there were only 15 of them in total. Compared to the other forces, they were alone. But today, no one dared to look down on them. There was even a trace of envy, reverence, or flattery in many people's eyes. "Sect Leader Mo is here." "Good morning, Sect Leader Mo." "Sect Leader Mo, why did you fall for the trap?" Mo Shi nodded at these people and led the 14 members of the World Society into the arena. On the rostrum by the side of the arena, those big shots' gazes seemed to have inadvertently swept across the World Society's location. Being watched by so many big shots, Mo Shi's expression didn't change and his heart didn't beat faster. Soon, the martial arts assembly began. The first batch didn't have Mo Shi's name. Instead, there were 3 Desolate Hunters from the World Society. Out of these 3, one of them happened to meet the level 2 Desolate Hunter and was eliminated. The other one met the Holy Maiden of the White Lotus Society and was also eliminated. Mo Shi shook his head as he watched. Although the Desolate Hunters he had brought with him were only level 1 Desolate Hunters, they were all level 1 Desolate Hunters. But they had just become Desolate Hunters on the 4th day. Firstly, they weren't familiar with their speed, strength, and other aspects after leveling up. Secondly, they were lacking in combat experience. So as long as they met a level 1 Desolate Hunter, it would be difficult to win. It seemed that when he returned, he would have to start training them in this aspect. Of course, there were exceptions. In the second batch of matches, one of the Desolate Hunters from the World Society was lucky enough to win against a level 1 Desolate Hunter. In the third batch of matches, Wuxia finally went on stage again. His luck was better, as his opponent was still a level 10 Desolate Hunter. Wuxia could now defeat a level 10 Desolate Hunter without even using his dragon sense. In the end, other than Wuxia, there were still 4 other Desolate Hunters from the World Society who entered the next round. After a few more rounds, it was noon. The top 16 had finally been determined. In the top 16, other than Wuxia, the rest were all Desolate Hunters. Among the World Society's Desolate Hunters, 4 of them had entered the top 16. At this time, the audience in the stands had already seen some clues. The combat strength of the World Society's Desolate Hunters doesn't seem to be very good. Other than 1 or 2 occasionally, the other Desolate Hunters sent by other factions have all entered the top 16. But out of the 9 Desolate Hunters from the World Society, only 3 have entered the top 16. It's indeed a little disappointing. On the rostrum next to the arena, the big shots from the top 10 factions were discussing in low voices. It seems that the World Society's Desolate Hunters haven't been promoted for long. In terms of combat experience and other aspects, they are lacking compared to other level 1 Desolate Hunters. Yes, it's very strange. It seems like they use some method to forcibly promote people with low strength to the level of a Desolate Hunter. There's such a method? I remember that the second hunting island produces a type of night ghost spirit. After absorbing the night ghost spirit, one's strength can be forcibly raised to the level of a Desolate Hunter. However, after absorbing the night ghost spirit and becoming a Desolate Hunter, one can forget about advancing even one step further in their life. But the night ghost spirit is extremely rare, and only one is produced every few decades. It's impossible for them to get 9 in such a short time. So this is what makes people feel strange. As these big shots discussed this, they also secretly made up their minds. If they could get some information about the night ghost spirit from the World Society's disciples, it would be best if they could get some night ghost spirits directly from them. However, they looked at Lu Shuming. After thinking about it, they decided to temporarily dispel this idea. The World Society was now on good terms with the military. If they had any ideas about them, they would simply be courting death. At this time, Lu Shuming was thinking about something else. Chapter 319. While the other big shots were considering whether or not they could get the night ghost spirit from World Society, Commander Lu Shuming was thinking about something else. Others only saw the high level of the World Society's Desolate Hunters, but ignored their leader. The leader of World Society, as a level 5 Desolate Hunter, had challenged several level 10 Desolate Hunters in a row, and could basically kill them all with one punch. This kind of combat power was really rare in the world. At this time, Lu Shuming was slightly looking forward to it. If he were to meet a level 1 Desolate Hunter who could force the leader of World Society to use all his strength, what kind of scene would that be? After resting for more than an hour at noon, the competition for the top 8 was held in the afternoon. Because there were fewer matches, only one match was held each time. Of the 3 Desolate Hunters from World Society who entered the top 16, only one made it to the top 8. Wuxia was quite satisfied with this result. After all, for a newly established organization to be able to get such a result was really not bad. Finally, in another match, Wuxia's opponent was a woman. The saintess of the School of White Lotus, Mary. In the School of White Lotus, a protector came to Mary's side. He said to Mary in a low voice, "The saintess said that this time, the saintess must enter the top 8. Mary was wearing a white dress, and she looked like a fairy. She looked in the direction of World Society, smiled sweetly, and said, "Left Protector, don't worry. No matter how strong a level 5 Desolate Hunter is, I don't believe that he can challenge a Desolate Hunter." The Protector nodded. "I won't pass on the Saintess's words. But a level 5 Desolate Hunter, there is no need to worry. If a level 5 Desolate Hunter can defeat a level 1 Desolate Hunter, then wouldn't the world be in chaos?" The Holy Virgin Mary smiled again. She was like a fairy from the heavens descending to the mortal world. Soon after, she floated up and went to the arena. At the same time, Wuxia also went to the arena. When the audience below the stage saw Saintess Mary, they immediately became excited. Damn, I didn't notice in the first few rounds, but this Saintess is so beautiful. Nonsense. Which of the Saintess of the School of White Lotus isn't beautiful? Go, Saintess! Saintess, you must enter the top 8. We can watch you for a few more rounds. The Holy Mother's School of White Lotus is not only good in character, but also beautiful. Each and every one of them is the best in the world. This time, no one mentioned the World Society's leader again. No one even looked at Wuxia. After all, in their opinion, no matter how strong the World Society's leader was, this was the end for him. It was already surprising that a level 5 hunter could reach the top 16 in the ring. Why would he need a bicycle? Trying to win by challenging a level 1 desolate hunter? Stop dreaming. Take a shower and go to sleep. In the arena, the big shots were not optimistic about Wuxia's chances. This is the end of the World Society's Gang Master. This battle should force him to use his full strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fight. The gap between a desolate hunter and a desolate hunter is like a natural chasm. Even if he uses his full strength, it's impossible for him to win. Lu Shuming's eyes flickered slightly. He was looking forward to seeing Wuxia unleash his full strength. Although, he did not think that Wuxia could win. At this moment, in the audience, other than the 10 or so people from World Society, no one believed that Wuxia could win. At this moment, the Saintess was standing opposite Wuxia. Under the sunlight, her white clothes were whiter than snow. She floated like a fairy. Her voice rose in spirals. Mary, Saintess of the School of White Lotus, please enlighten me. Wuxia smiled and nodded. World Society's Gangmaster. Wuxia. The referee at the side gave the order. If you're ready, you can start. After saying that, he stepped aside. The Saintess did not move. She stared straight at Wuxia's face, waiting for Wuxia to make the first move. In her opinion, in a battle between a desolate hunter and a hunter, if the one who made the first move, it would be considered a loss. Wuxia did not hold back. On his entire right arm, a genetic weapon quickly condensed. It was a huge axe. The huge axe looked longer than Wuxia's height. At its widest part, it was more than 3 meters wide. Then, he poured energy into it. The huge axe began to turn fiery red. The shape of the huge axe also changed. On both sides of the axe, a picture of a giant dragon appeared. The blade of the huge axe was a pair of wings of the giant dragon. The dragon's eyes were actually burning with raging flames. Flame Dragon Axe. The next moment, Wuxia jumped up. He jumped to a height of 100 meters. Then, the huge axe in his right hand directly smashed towards the Saintess in the arena. The Flame Dragon Axe quickly widened and lengthened. Finally, it reached a length of 100 meters and slashed towards the Saintess. Seeing this, the Saintess was slightly surprised. A mere level 5 Desolate Hunter could explode with such power. But for her, a mere level 5 Desolate Hunter's speed was still too slow. Thinking of this, she moved her feet lightly. She wanted to make a dodging movement that seemed easy on the surface. However, when she moved her feet, she found that her movements were somewhat sluggish. It was as if she was trapped by an invisible force. She frowned slightly. Psychokinesis. This guy was actually a psychic grandmaster. A desolate hunter and a psychic grandmaster dual cultivator. With such a surprise, the Saintess' speed slowed down even more. She had no choice but to suddenly move forward and roll. Boom! The Flame Dragon Axe fiercely chopped at the place where the Saintess had been standing. The arena here was protected by special energy, so it would not be damaged at all. But when the Flame Dragon Axe chopped down, the flames soared into the sky, dazzling everyone's eyes. And the Saintess' posture when she escaped was extremely embarrassing. She no longer had the graceful posture like before. Everyone present was slightly taken aback. Damn, the leader of the World Society is so strong. Even the Saintess is in such a sorry state? Did you notice that he added energy to the weapon to attack just now? That's right, he didn't use a genetic weapon to shoot out an energy pillar, but added energy to the genetic weapon to attack. I've never seen such an attack method before. At the same time, the big shots on the platform beside the arena all revealed looks of astonishment. This was because adding energy to a genetic weapon to attack was an attack that even they could not do. Although the desolate hunters could use energy weapons many times, the method they used was still to release energy light pillars to attack. This kind of attack seemed very powerful, but it had a weakness. It consumed too much energy. If it could not hit the enemy, the energy would be wasted. And according to what they knew, only when one reached the level of a Grand Desolate Master could they add energy to weapons, genetic weapons, and even their fists to attack. This had an advantage. Even if the attack did not hit the enemy, the energy would still be there and would not be wasted. And genetic weapons, fists, or weapons with energy added would be more than 10 times or even dozens of times more powerful than usual. Chapter 320. When Lu Shuming saw Mo Shi's method of attack, he was also shocked. This method of attack could save a lot of energy for a hunter. However, it was impossible for a normal hunter to do it. Even a hunter could not do it. He was just a level 5 hunter. How could he fight like a Grand Desolate Master? As for the Holy Mother, she was in a different state of mind. The strength of the World Society's leader was so strong. Would Mary panic? If she panicked, would she? After a while, she shook her head and dispelled these ridiculous thoughts. No matter how strong a level 5 hunter was, how could he be a match for a level 1 Desolate Master? She was thinking too much. Above the battle ring, Mo Shi once again swung his flame dragon battle axe, and chopped down on the Holy Maiden one after another. After the saint was in a sorry state at the beginning, she was finally on her guard and was no longer panicking. However, when she was dodging, she felt that there was a strong force dragging her back. With her strength, it was not difficult for her to break free from this force. However, there was always this kind of power in her body that made her feel uncomfortable. Moreover, it did affect her speed. This made her a little annoyed. It seemed that if she did not show some strength, the World Society's leader would become more and more arrogant. Thinking of this, she rolled up her wide sleeves. It revealed the jade-white, porcelain-like mechanical arm inside. This mechanical arm, other than being too white and smooth, was different from a real person's arm in all other aspects. Soon, a flame burned on the surface of the arm. Her genetic martial art was revealed. It was a 3-meter-long sword that looked like it was carved out of white jade. Even though it was 3 meters long, it did not seem heavy at all. Instead, it gave people a feeling of lightness. Seeing this, the people at the side of the arena started to discuss. To be able to force out a Desolate Master's genetic martial art, this World Society's leader is not simple. Indeed, this is the first time I've seen a hunter who can force out a Desolate Master's genetic martial art. However, that's all there is to it. Once the saint's genetic martial art is revealed, he is basically finished. Yes, after all, there is a difference in realms. At this time, Saintess Mary saw Mo Shi chopping down with his axe again. As she dodged the attack, she thrust the sword in her hand towards Mo Shi. Whoosh! The long sword instantly extended 100 meters and stabbed towards Mo Shi's chest. Mo Shi smiled and his figure flashed. He instantly disappeared. Using Dragon Shadow Step, he appeared behind the Saintess. At the same time, he raised the giant axe in his right hand and chopped down at the Saintess. He didn't have the slightest bit of tenderness for the fairer sex. The Saintess had also sensed this and hurriedly dodged. She had long been prepared to face Mo Shi's telekinesis head-on. But this time, Mo Shi's telekinesis did not trap her. Instead, it drilled directly into her head and attacked her brain. The Holy Maiden suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. This stinging pain almost made her lose consciousness. When the pain disappeared and she came back to her senses, it was already too late for her to dodge. She hurriedly raised her sword to block. Ding! The sword and axe collided, and sparks flew everywhere. Mo Shi's figure flew back more than 100 meters. And the Saintess also retreated more than 10 meters. Everyone present was surprised when they saw this. A single hunter could force a hunter to retreat 10 meters. This was definitely an amazing achievement. It could be bragged about for a month. On the rostrum next to the ring, Holy Mother White Lotus frowned slightly. What's wrong with Mary? She couldn't even handle a level 5 hunter and was forced back 10 meters by the other party. This was definitely embarrassing enough. Although the level of these big shots on the rostrum was not low, none of them were great psychic masters. Naturally, they didn't know that Mo Shi used a telekinesis attack. Lu Shuming was also slightly surprised. At this time, a division commander behind him whispered, "Commander!" A soldier behind reported that the leader of the World Society used a telekinesis attack just now. When Lu Shuming heard this, a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. Telekinesis attack. That is to say, in addition to being a powerful hunter, Mo Shi was also a great psychic master. Dual cultivation. His original strength was enough to kill an opponent 5 levels higher than him. This was already a genius among geniuses. Now he was a psychic master. This kid was definitely a good person in his previous life. But everyone didn't know that this was just the beginning of their shock. After retreating 10 meters, the Saintess was about to counterattack. But at this time, Kacha, a slight sound could be heard. She was slightly stunned. What was that sound? It sounded very close. Kacha, Kacha, Kacha. Another 3 light sounds could be heard. This time, she finally heard the source of the sound. Looking down, she saw that a few cracks had appeared on her genetic long sword. Mary's expression changed greatly. But she didn't have time to react. Kacha, Kacha, Kacha. The cracks quickly covered the entire long sword. The next moment. Crash. Her long sword was like glass, shattering all over the ground. At this moment, everyone was silent. What? How? How is this possible? The Saintess's genetic weapon. Shattered. Shattered all over the ground. My worldview has also been shattered. Everyone couldn't believe it. The genetic martial art of a desolate hunter had actually been shattered into pieces by a single strike from a desolate hunter. This was 2F** king ridiculous. Even novels wouldn't dare to write like this. On the rostrum beside the arena, Holy Mother White Lotus suddenly stood up. She looked at Mary in disbelief. Finally, her gaze landed on Mo Shi. She already knew that this match wasn't simple, but she didn't expect it to be so complicated. A dignified desolate hunter's genetic weapon had actually been shattered by a mere level 5 desolate hunter. This completely overturned her understanding. Of course, her emotions weren't mostly shock. Instead, it was anger. One must know that genetic weapons were the foundation of a cultivator. Without genetic weapons, a cultivator was considered to be crippled. Now that Saintess Mary's genetic weapon was shattered, even if she was a level 1 hunter, her strength would be reduced. She originally thought that Mary would inherit the position of Holy Mother in the future. But now it seemed that the Saintess's everything was ruined. Thinking of this, Holy Mother White Lotus's heart was boiling with anger. Hatred and anger had long since filled her chest. However, as the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society, she hid these emotions well in her heart. The Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society had always been kind. Even if the Saintess's genetic weapon was destroyed, as the Holy Mother, she had to act like a Holy Mother. Thinking of this, she suppressed the anger in her heart. Then she let out a long sigh. Sigh. Of course, this sigh was for the other big shots to see. When the big shots heard this, they all spoke out. It's just a competition. There's no need to destroy the opponent's genetic weapon. This Mo Shi is too ruthless. Yeah, he doesn't know how to control his strength. Chapter 321. When the Holy Mother of White Lotus heard the words of the elders, she secretly nodded. This was the effect that she wanted. No matter what, the Holy Mother of White Lotus had to stand at the peak of public opinion. This would be of great help to the Holy Mother of White Lotus. Of course, although the elders were discussing Mo Shi's wrongdoings, no one dared to speak too harshly. After all, Mo Shi was someone who had a good relationship with the military. None of them dared to say too many bad things about Mo Shi in front of Commander Lu Shuming. But to the Holy Mother of White Lotus, she had already achieved her goal with that sigh. She knew that the best way to gain the support of public opinion was to influence things subtly and silently. She had to do it bit by bit. At this time, everyone at the scene came to their senses and understood the seriousness of the matter. F***CK, the Holy Mother's genetic martial art was destroyed. This kid is too ruthless. The Holy Mother had been giving in to him. Otherwise, did he think that a mere level 5 hunter could last until now? Who would have thought that this kid would repay kindness with enmity and destroy the Holy Mother's genetic martial art? He's simply a bastard. At this moment, Mo Shi, who was in the arena, was only looking at the Holy Mother coldly. After the initial panic, the Holy Mother quickly calmed down. Her gaze was cold. You destroyed my genetic martial art. You're too vicious. After saying this, the aura on her body completely exploded. She quickly stepped toward Mo Shi. Seeing this, Mo Shi still did not have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. He had already plundered the Holy Mother's memories. He knew that although the Holy Mother looked like a Holy Mother on the surface, she was actually a vicious woman in her heart. As long as she seized the opportunity, he would not even know how he died. Hence, once Mo Shi made his move, he did not show any mercy. His genetic martial art once again slashed toward the Holy Mother of White Lotus. This time, the Holy Mother of White Lotus's aura completely exploded. Her speed was also much faster than before. Although she did not have a genetic martial art, after dodging Mo Shi's attack, she leaped and appeared in front of Mo Shi. At the same time, his right leg softly wrapped around the handle of Mo Shi's giant axe. As a desolate hunter, she was extremely powerful. With this entanglement, Mo Shi's giant axe was unable to move at all. At the same time, a flame covered her left arm. Her wide sleeves were burned to ashes by the flames. His left arm, which looked like it was carved from flour and jade, was exposed. At the same time, her left arm quickly transformed into a 3-meter-long sword. Everyone present was stunned. Another genetic martial artist. So the Holy Maiden is a double genetic warrior. Heavens! This is definitely the most talented Holy Maiden of the Holy Mother School of White Lotus in the last 100 years. In the arena, those big shots also widened their eyes in shock. It turned out that Mary was a double genetic warrior. Holy Mother by Lian Hua once again sighed heavily. Sigh. All the big shots understood what she meant. Originally, a dual genetic martial artist would definitely have a boundless future. As long as she was given another 20 to 30 years, she would definitely be the top existence in Yuzhou. However, now that a genetic martial artist was destroyed by Mo Shi, she would turn from a top genius to an ordinary genius. The gap between them was self-evident. In the audience, Happy was also a little worried. Could Brother Mo win? However, Emma was not worried at all. She had seen what Mo Shi had done in the second hunting ground, killing thousands of night ghosts with his bare hands. She had already reached the point of blind worship for Mo Shi's strength. Now, even if someone said that Mo Shi could defeat a desolate master, she would believe it. In the arena, Mo Shi saw that his opponent was actually a double genetic martial artist. He was slightly surprised. However, he then smiled. He saw his opponent's genetic martial artist once again pointing at his chest. His left arm was also rapidly changing. In the next moment, a fiery red gigantic dragon-shaped axe condensed on his left arm. Saintess Mary's long sword had just pierced Mo Shi's chest. Mo Shi's giant axe had already blocked in front of him. Ding! The sword and axe clashed, producing an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing. When Mary saw this, her eyes widened. Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. In the stands, double genetic martial artist. On the main platform, double genetic martial artist. Lu Shuming thought to himself, double genetic martial artist. This was simply ridiculous. As a commander in the military, he had seen too many geniuses. Previously, although Mo Shi appeared to be a genius, he was only slightly stronger than ordinary geniuses. However, when he knew that Mo Shi was both a cultivator and a spirit master, he was a little tempted. He was even more outstanding than many geniuses in the military. And now, Mo Shi revealed that he was a double genetic martial artist, which made him even more tempted. Such a genius, even in the military, was hard to come by even once every few hundred years. When Mary saw that her attack was blocked by Mo Shi's other genetic martial artist, she was shocked. She quickly jumped and retreated more than 200 meters. Then, she quickly lowered her head to look at her long sword genetic martial artist. Luckily, there were no cracks on the genetic martial artist. However, Mo Shi's genetic martial artist was very strange. If she was hit by his genetic martial artist a few more times, her own genetic martial artist might not be able to withstand it. Damn it, He was a level 1 desolate hunter, and a double genetic warrior at that. When had he ever been so aggrieved in front of a mere hunter? Thinking of this, she frowned. Since that was the case, she would use her full strength. Thinking of this, the long sword in her left hand suddenly lit up with red and white light. Then on the tip of the long sword, the red and white light condensed. Xiao, a red and white light pillar with a diameter of 10 centimeters suddenly shot toward Mo Shi. This light pillar came so fast that even Mo Shi could not dodge it. Luckily, he did not need to dodge. He directly blocked with the Flame Dragon battle axe. Boom! That light pillar blasted onto the Flame Dragon battle axe. A glaring red and white light lit up. Although it did not explode, people were unable to see the situation clearly. However, everyone knew that this time, Mo Shi would definitely be sent flying. After all, this was the full-strength attack of a desolate hunter. No matter how strong Mo Shi was, he was only a level 5 desolate hunter. However, when the red light dissipated and the situation in the arena was revealed, everyone was once again dumbfounded. They saw Mo Shi standing in the center of the arena. Compared to before, his position was only 50 meters back. His giant axe was still on his body. There seemed to be no marks on the giant axe. The defense of this giant axe is too strong. This is too ridiculous. His genetic martial artist can easily shatter a desolate hunter's genetic martial artist. The full-strength attack of a desolate hunter is unable to cause any damage to his genetic martial artist. Chapter 322. It wasn't just the people in the stands who were shocked. Even the big shots were shocked by the sturdiness of Mo Shi's genetic martial arts. Under normal circumstances, the sturdiness of each person's genetic martial arts was different, but the difference wasn't that big. Generally speaking, the higher the level, the sturdier the genetic martial arts. It wasn't uncommon for a desolate hunter to destroy a hunter's genetic martial arts. However, it was rare for a hunter's genetic martial arts to not have any changes under a desolate hunter's all-out attack. Seeing that she couldn't defeat Mo Shi with one strike, Saintess Mary's left arm energy weapon continued to release beams of light. Mo Shi, on the other hand, used his genetic martial arts to block the attacks. At this moment, he was in a slightly difficult situation. His opponent's firepower was too strong. She continuously used her energy weapon to attack him. It wasn't difficult for him to block the attacks, but it was impossible for him to counterattack. Saintess Mary kept releasing energy, so much so that only patches of red and white light could be seen in the center of the arena. She couldn't see Mo Shi's figure at all. Of course, Saintess Mary also knew that if this continued, her energy would be exhausted sooner or later. That would be the time for Mo Shi to counterattack. Therefore, she definitely wouldn't give Mo Shi such a chance. At a certain moment, after another energy beam shot out, her energy weapon suddenly changed direction. It no longer shot towards Mo Shi. Instead, she directly stabbed her sword into the ground. Ding! The arena had been reinforced by energy, so it was naturally impossible to pierce through it. However, when the tip of her sword touched the ground, the energy was instantly injected into the ground. The next moment, the ground was quickly frozen. The speed of this freezing was extremely fast, quickly moving towards Mo Shi's direction. Mo Shi originally thought that the opponent's attack would stop for a while, and he would be able to take a breather. He didn't expect the opponent's attack to come so quickly, and it came from below his feet. He only felt his feet turn cold. Then, the cold air quickly climbed up his body. His body was directly frozen. He didn't even have the chance to react. Seeing this, everyone at the scene was overjoyed. This is the Saintess' innate skill. She's only a level 1 desolate hunter and has already awakened her innate skill. Amazing. Otherwise, why would they say that the Saintess is an absolute genius? On the rostrum next to the ring, those big shots also looked surprised. After becoming a desolate hunter, there was a chance to awaken his innate talent. However, most people would only awaken their innate talents at level 3 or higher. This Saintess Mary had awakened her innate talent at level 1. She was definitely a genius among geniuses. Seeing that Mo Shi was finally frozen, Saintess Mary breathed a sigh of relief. A hunter actually forced her to use her talent skill, which really made her very unhappy. Then, let's end it. Thinking of this, Another beam of light started to condense in the genetic martial art on her left arm. Boom! The light beam blasted directly onto Mo Shi's ice sculpture. Of course, in order to maintain the image of the Virgin Mary, she did not attempt to kill Mo Shi. No matter how much he wanted to kill, he couldn't do it in the arena. She had aimed at Mo Shi's shoulder and launched the attack. Since you crippled my genetic martial art, I'll cripple yours too. There's nothing wrong with that. He would first destroy Mo Shi's left genetic weapon. Boom! The left shoulder of the ice sculpture directly exploded. She did not attack Mo Shi's left shoulder again. Instead, she aimed at Mo Shi's legs. Boom! The legs of the ice sculpture were directly broken by the light beam. Then, the genetic martial art aimed at Mo Shi's chest. She did not shoot out an energy beam. Her voice rose. I'm sorry you lost. Right at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared behind her without any warning. Then, a black claw shadow slashed toward Saintess Mary's back. The Saintess' heart trembled, and she knew that this was not good. It was too late to dodge now. She quickly raised her sword to block above her head. Swish! The Titan dragon claw slashed on the long sword. Out of the Saintess's expectations, the long sword did not shatter. However, an invisible force instantly tore the Saintess's shoulder apart. It directly cut off her entire left arm. Swish! This sudden change caused an uproar in the arena. They thought that the Saintess would definitely win. Unexpectedly, the leader of the World Society actually used some kind of special footwork and instantly appeared behind the Saintess. And with one claw, he slashed off the Saintess's remaining genetic martial art. This turn of events was too sudden, and they had no time to react. Most importantly, the aura of the leader of the World Society at this moment was actually more than 10 times stronger than before. He had actually become a level 6 scavenger. Could it be that he had actually broken through during the battle just now? At the side of the arena, those big shots were also surprised. Breaking through during a battle was something that could only be chanced upon and not sought. Although breaking through required an opportunity, the situation in a battle was constantly changing. If one was not careful and was in the midst of breaking through, the other party would have already killed you. And those who could quickly break through during a battle were all top geniuses. Lu Shuming's eyes lit up even more. Why did this little guy always get all the good things? How much did the heavens favor him? At this moment, Mo Shi took advantage of the Saintess's left shoulder to slash at the Saintess's head again with his sharp claws. Under normal circumstances, slashing off 2 of the Saintess's genetic martial arts would already give him a high chance of winning. There was no need to kill her. But Mo Shi had plundered the Saintess's memory, and knew that she was a kind person with a ruthless heart. Anyone who offended her would not have a good ending. Even if she did not make a move now, after the martial arts tournament ended, she would definitely do something to him. She might even endanger the people around him. Rather than waiting for her to do something, he might as well make the first move and kill her first. And at this moment, at the side of the arena, Holy Mother White Lotus shouted loudly, "Have mercy, we admit defeat." As she said this, she had already leaped onto the arena. Mo Shi snorted coldly. If I let her stay now, would she let me stay in the future? Thinking of this, not only did he not stop. Instead, he also added energy to his sharp claws. The speed of the sharp claws suddenly increased explosively. Whoosh! They slashed straight at the Saintess. Of course, Saintess Mary did not just sit there and wait for death. She rolled to the side in an extremely embarrassing manner and directly rolled away. The sharp claws did not hit her body. However, the area covered by the invisible force was not as small as the surface of the sharp claws. Boom! On the arena that was enhanced by energy, 5 claw marks quickly extended. Each claw mark was 3 meters wide, about half a meter deep, and extended over 100 meters long. And this was because the arena was enhanced by energy, which greatly reduced the damage. Otherwise, the entire arena would have long been destroyed. And although the Saintess was not in the claw marks, however, his entire body was affected by the aftershock of the invisible chi that was released. Rip! The lower half of her body was directly torn apart. Her entire body was broken into 2. At this moment, the entire scene was silent. Chapter 323. The Saintess had been cut in half. The entire place fell into silence at once. No one could react. The Saintess had clearly gained the upper hand and was about to win. How could she have been cut in half in the blink of an eye? Everyone from the White Lotus school of the Holy Mother turned pale. In their belief, the Saintess was invincible. The Saintess was also invincible with the protection of the Holy Light. How could she have been cut in half by a mortal? The Holy Mother, White Lotus, also landed beside the Saintess. Looking at the two halves of the Saintess' body, the anger in her heart surged. How much resources, effort, and time would it take to cultivate such a Saintess? In the end, not only had her dual genetic martial arts been destroyed, but she had also been cut in half. Fortunately, with the current technology of the continent and the Saintess' self-healing ability as a level 1 Desolate Hunter, such injuries could be healed in half a month at most. However, at this moment, the Saintess opened her mouth to speak. She looked at the Saintess with bloodshot eyes and hysterically said, "Saintess, avenge me! Kill him, I want him to die." This hysterical scream stunned everyone present. This was the complete opposite of the image of the Saintess in their minds. What the White Lotus saw was that the Saintess' head slowly tilted to one side after shouting those words. She reached out and found that there was no breath. The Saintess was dead. Logically speaking, such an injury should not have been able to endanger her life. However, her self-healing ability seemed to have failed. She had actually died. In other words, there was something strange about this kid's claws. She suddenly raised her head and looked at Mo, who was not far away. You killed her?" Mo nodded. Yes. Facing the questioning of a level 3 Desolate Hunter, he was not afraid at all. If this woman dared to attack him, he would have to use the Sea Dragon clone to kill her. The White Lotus aura suddenly surged and pressed down on Mo. "I already told you to stop." Mo felt uncomfortable under the pressure and scratched his head apologetically. "I used too much force just now and couldn't control it." The Virgin White Lotus trembled slightly. If there was no one around, she would have slapped this bastard to death. However, the school of White Lotus had always presented itself as a bright, righteous, and tolerant sect. Even if the Holy Maiden was killed, she could not use force in public under such circumstances. Mo continued. "It's normal for there to be casualties in the arena." Then, he ignored the woman and turned to look at the referee. A gulping sound came from the referee's throat as he glanced at the rostrum beside the ring. On the rostrum, although everyone wanted to speak up, when they realized that Mo had connections with the military, they could only remain silent. The referee had no choice but to shoulder everything by himself. He clenched his teeth and announced, "World Club, Mo wins." The Holy Mother of White Lotus revealed a pained expression and said to the disciples of the Holy Mother of White Lotus, "Clean up the body and bury it." A few disciples of the Holy Mother School of White Lotus hurriedly rushed onto the stage and carried the Holy Maiden's body down. At this moment, everyone who saw this scene from the sidelines was furious. He actually killed the Saintess. Too ruthless. The Holy Mother already admitted defeat, but he still insisted on attacking. A person like this should be kicked out of the arena. The referee should kick him out. Kicking him out would be letting him off too easily. That was the Holy Maiden, a genius and beauty. Yet he killed her just like that. He should pay with his life. Pay with his life. In the end, the cries of the spectators converged into 4 words. Pay with his life. Pay with his life. On the stage, Mo showed no fear in the face of all the hostile gazes. His gaze slowly swept across the entire arena. "If you have the ability, come up and kill me." Those who were swept by his gaze unconsciously lowered their heads when they saw his cold gaze. This was because Mo had nurtured Long Wei in the Dragon's Denver. Although he did not release Long Wei on his own accord, he would inadvertently reveal a sliver of it. These humans would naturally feel fear when they saw it. Only then did Mo slowly get off the stage. Everyone waited for Mo to get off the stage before raising their heads one by one. "This kid is too strange. When he looked at me, it actually made my scalp go numb." "Yeah, I have the same feeling too. So when he gets on the stage, let's not talk too much." At the same time in the stands, the fallen Feathersword sect master, Luo Chenqiu, was secretly delighted. He secretly told the level 2 Desolate Hunter, "Don't worry. If you go up against Mo later, say that you want to seek justice for the Saintess." The level 2 Desolate Hunter called Xiaofan nodded. Yes, sect master. Luo Qianqiu continued, this kid is a little strange. When you go up against him, use all your strength. You must use all your strength to kill him within a short period of time. Otherwise, as time passes, I'm afraid there will be changes. The level 2 Desolate Hunter called Xiaofan nodded again. Yes, sect master. In the next 2 rounds, the World Society's last Desolate Hunter was also eliminated. In these 2 rounds, Mo Shi's opponents were both level 1 Desolate Hunters. With his previous experience, Mo Shi was able to deal with the 2 Desolate Hunters. Although he could not completely crush them, it was still a piece of cake for him. In the end, Mo Shi eliminated the 2 level 1 Desolate Hunters and entered the top 2. These 2 matches gave the audience a clear understanding of Mo Shi's combat strength. Chapter 324. When Zhao Huan looked at Mo Shi, her lips moved slightly. Mo Shi recognized that she was saying, if you dare to enter the arena, die. Mo Shi could not be bothered with her. He said to Happy beside him, go back and rest. The battle for the championship would be held at noon the next day. After all, both of them had gone through continuous battles. At this time, their energy was probably almost depleted. If they fought at this time, the scene might not be as exciting as when they were at their peak. Therefore, the organizing committee decided to rest for the night and fight again the next day. In the evening, all the factions spread out and looked for a place to set up camp. Mo Shi led the dozen or so people from World Society to the place where they rested yesterday. In the evening, Mo Shi and Happy sat at the top of the mountain and looked at the distant horizon. The red sun was slowly setting in the west. Watching the sunset at the top of the mountain was completely different from watching it on the ground or by the sea. The sunset at the top of the mountain seemed to be more beautiful and magnificent. The 2 of them leaned against each other until the sun completely set. They all enjoyed this moment very much. At around 9 o'clock at night, Mo Shi and Happy returned to the tent and planned to rest. At this moment, a person came to the tent. This person was dressed in a military uniform and had a straight figure. Mo Shi had an impression of this person. He was one of the division commanders behind Lu Shuming. The teacher didn't smile or speak harshly. He spoke bluntly. The commander asked me to tell you that you killed the Virgin and the Saint of the White Lotus Society and angered the public. You have to be careful tonight. Mo Shi nodded. Thank the commander for the reminder. The division commander nodded. I will. After saying that, he turned around and quickly walked out of the tent. After the division commander left, Mo Shi fell into deep thought. During the martial arts tournament, according to the rules, private fights were not allowed. He originally thought that those factions would not dare to attack World Society in private. However, Lu Shuming said that he had angered the public. Under such circumstances, if any faction launched a sneak attack at night, they would comply with the public's wishes. They would be much bolder. There was no telling what would happen. Thinking of this, Mo Shi asked Happy to call everyone into the tent. He said, rest in the dragon's den tonight. When everyone heard this, they knew that this was no small matter. They replied in unison, yes. Mo Shi took out the dragon cave and moved it with his mind. Everyone was sent into the dragon cave. He placed the virtual sentry tower outside the tent. Then, he also entered the dragon's cave. The dragon cave instantly disappeared from the tent as if it had never existed. At the same time, in a military green tent, the division commander came back to report. Chief, the mission has been completed. Lu Shuming nodded. Yes, go and rest. The division commander nodded. Yes. But before he left, he asked again, Chief, if you value the World Society's leader so much, why don't we go and help them? I'm afraid there are quite a few sects that attacked them tonight. Lu Shuming shifted his gaze away from the document he was flipping through and looked at the teacher. The growth of any genius will experience many trials and tribulations. If we help him too much, the speed of his growth will be greatly reduced. Even if he matures, he will still be far from reaching his upper limit. The division commander nodded. Understood. He then turned around and walked out of the tent. Lu Shuming retracted his gaze. He stared at the meager information about Mo Shi on the multifunctional watch. He muttered to himself. There had never been any information about this Mo Shi before. It was as if such a person had appeared out of thin air. It wasn't just him. Even everyone around him seemed to have appeared out of thin air on the flaming initial continent. Could it be that they really came from another world? However, the military had never stuck to one pattern when it came to recruiting talents. Otherwise, the military wouldn't be so powerful. No matter where he came from, no matter what he had done in the past, as long as he really joined the military in the future, the military would be able to make him a new powerhouse. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. In Mo Shi's mind, the alarm of the virtual sentry tower suddenly rang in the mind of Mo Shi, who was sleeping soundly. Mo Shi immediately connected to the virtual sentry tower with his dragon will. Everything within a radius of 100 kilometers was instantly within his sight. At this time, there were as many as 5 forces that were planning to attack him. About 1 kilometer away from their tent, a force ranked 88th was lurking there. The leader asked in a low voice, "Leader, isn't it a bit too risky for us to make a move this time?" The leader said in a low voice, "The world society is arrogant and actually killed the saintess in the arena. This has already angered the public. We're following the public opinion by killing them now. It's worth taking a little risk." Another person also said, "We have a silence bomb. If we secretly use it on them, they'll be vaporized in an instant. No matter how strong their leader is, he won't be able to resist at all." However, the leader said, "It's best if we can get their heads and prove to all the forces that we killed them. Otherwise, even if we kill them, it'll be a waste of effort." That person said again, "Then we'll use hallucinogens to make them fall into an illusion one by one. Then we'll go in and cut off their heads." The leader nodded, "Yes, that's what I mean." At the same time, 5 kilometers away, another force was also lurking quietly. "Leader, it seems that someone has arrived before us." The leader frowned slightly. "If they take the credit first, then our trip tonight will be a waste. Get ready. If they start fighting later, we'll act according to the situation. No matter what, we must get the World Society leader's head." "Yes." At the same time, 10 kilometers away, the third force had just come out of the tent. "Tonight's matter must be settled in one blow. A few forces have already gone over. However, the World Society will definitely be prepared. When the time comes, it'll definitely be a chaotic battle. We'll follow them first. When they're fighting, we'll get the World Society leader's head and retreat immediately. Understand?" "Understood." Mo Shi roughly scanned with his dragon's perception. At this point, there were quite a few people who wanted to harm the World Society. There were as many as 20 forces. However, these forces weren't doing it for so-called justice. There was no justice for adults. There were only benefits. The reason why they wanted to kill him was to destroy the World Society. The only reason was for themselves. After all, as long as they got the World Society leader's head, it would be considered as avenging the saintess of the White Lotus Society. It would be considered as enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Mo Shi had already expected this, so he wasn't in a hurry. He just secretly took note of these forces. What surprised him was that the Holy Mother of White Lotus Society didn't make a move. However, Mo Shi knew that it wasn't that the White Lotus Society didn't want to kill him. It was that they were shrewd enough to hide their true intentions deep enough. Chapter 325. Out of the 99 forces, more than 20 of them wanted to kill him. However, Mo Shi didn't care too much about this. To be honest, with their forces, his sea dragon avatar could kill or injure more than half of them. In addition, there were more than 10 desolate hunters from the World Society, and more than 20 mechas operated by the little monk, who were equivalent to desolate hunters. Even if more than 20 of them attacked together, what could they do? However, Mo Shi's real purpose for participating in the martial arts tournament was to get the map of the ancient dragon battlefield and the incomplete dragon vein. Before getting these two things, he felt that it was better to play it safe. Otherwise, if he wiped out more than 20 forces in one go, would the martial arts tournament still be held? Would he still want the reward? Therefore, Mo Shi just secretly remembered these forces. For the time being, they didn't take any action. At the same time, in the military tent, Commander Lu Shuming asked the division commander next to him, "How's the situation?" The division commander shook his head. The situation is not very optimistic. A total of 27 forces want to attack the world society. I'm afraid the world society won't be able to survive. Another division commander asked, Chief, should we help him? Lu Shuming shook his head. No, for a genius, it's not necessarily a bad thing to suffer some setbacks. Since we've already reminded him, we've done our best. A division commander said with some regret. But it's really a pity if such a genius dies like this. Lu Shuming thought for a moment and said, You two send people over. It doesn't matter if the rest of the world society die. If Mo Shi's life is in great danger, give him a hand. The two division commanders looked at each other and nodded. Yes, Chief. In fact, these two division commanders were also a little surprised. In the past, the commanders almost never participated in the internal struggles of Yuzhou. The internal forces of Yuzhou fought to their deaths. It was their own business. Even if these forces had talented disciples, the chief wouldn't take a second look at them. But this time, in addition to reminding gang leader Mo, he even asked them to lend a hand if necessary. It was obvious that the chief valued Mo Shi very much. But then again, with Mo Shi's strength and talent, he was indeed worthy of the commander's high regard. At this moment, the first force had already arrived at the edge of the tent. World Society had set up a total of 3 tents. Mo Shi happily shared a tent, Emma and her son shared a tent, and everyone else shared a tent. The leader of that faction gestured with his hand, indicating that the dozens of people were divided into 3 groups. Then, under his command, the 3 tents were injected with hallucinogens at the same time. The entire tent was silent. 10 seconds later, under the order of the gang leader, these dozens of people wearing special gas masks rushed out together and rushed into the tent. However, when they entered the tent, they were shocked to find that there was not even a shadow inside. Everyone was stunned. What happened? Didn't you say that they stayed in their tents the whole night? What about the Psyche Master? Come here. The Psychic Master was called over. The gang leader frowned and asked, What happened? The Psychic Master's heart tightened, and he was at a loss. I don't know either. When they returned to the tent in the afternoon, they used some kind of method to block psychic detection. I couldn't detect their presence at all. The gang leader thought for a few seconds and cursed. Damn it! Retreat first. Then, he led this group of people and quickly retreated. Not long after, the second group of people also arrived. Like the previous faction, they also failed to find anything. At the same time, 5 kilometers away, the third faction had been listening attentively. What happened? There's no movement. It shouldn't be. Logically speaking, after 2 factions went there, it should be a chaotic battle now. It's really strange. Not long after, the third faction sent a few people to investigate. Soon, the people who investigated came back. Gang leader, World Society's tent is empty. Empty? Yes. Everyone was very surprised. It can't be that the other powers have already quietly wiped out the World Society, right? The people who came back from the investigation shook their heads. It doesn't seem like it. There are no traces of fighting. The gang leader frowned. Damn it, what's going on? At the same time, the other factions who failed to find anything heard that there was no movement at World Society's tent. They were very puzzled. What the hell was going on? It shouldn't be. They also sent 2 or 3 people to investigate. In the end, there were still no traces of fighting. Everyone in World Society seemed to have evaporated into thin air. No matter what method they used, they couldn't find them at all. In the end, all the factions left resentfully. At the same time in the military tent, the division commander reported the situation to Commander Lu Shuming. Commander, do you think that the entire world meeting used the wormhole teleportation technology and left at night? Lu Shuming shook his head. There's a special restriction on Huichun Peak. We can't use the wormhole transmission technology here. The other division commander was puzzled. That's very strange. They can't use the wormhole transmission technology, but World Society seems to have evaporated into thin air. Commander Lu Shuming pondered for a while and said, Maybe it's an independent space. Independent space. Independent space. The 2 division commanders were stunned. Independent space. It only exists in theory. It hasn't been proven yet. In the research of some top scientists in the Flaming Land, they deduced that there were many independent spaces in the universe. Independent spaces could be the fragments of a parallel world after it was destroyed. They could also be the entrances to other worlds. These independent spaces were completely independent of the entire universe. Anything that happened in this universe wouldn't affect the independent spaces. Even if this universe was destroyed, the independent spaces would still be unaffected. But this was just a theory. It had been more than 300 years since the theory of independent space appeared, but no one had discovered an independent space. Even if the ancient dragon battlefield seemed to be independent of this world on the surface, it was still dependent on this world to maintain it. For example, the ancient dragon battlefield was like a balloon tied to the Flaming Land. If the Flaming Land was destroyed, the balloon would be destroyed too. Even if it wasn't destroyed, it would lose its dimensional points and drift in the universe. So strictly speaking, the ancient dragon battlefield wasn't an independent space. Commander Lu Shuming looked at the large pile of information displayed on his multifunctional watch. After a long time he said, "Is there anything that won't happen to Mo Shi?" Chapter 326. Is there anything that is impossible for Mo Shi? Lu Shuming said slowly. When the two division commanders heard this, they were both stunned. Then they understood. Indeed, as the army commander said, there was nothing that was impossible for Mo Shi. A level 6 hunter was able to kill a level 1 hunter. Before this, it was simply impossible for it to appear. But it had happened for Mo Shi. Being both a hunter and a psychic grandmaster, as well as having a double genetic martial art, all three of these things, in the past this was simply impossible. However, it still appeared on Mo Shi's body. The arena had been strengthened by energy. Even a hunter's energy weapon would not be able to destroy it. It was naturally impossible for a mere level 6 hunter to destroy it. However, Mo Shi had forcibly left 5 long and deep claw marks on the arena. It was as if there was nothing that was impossible for him. Thinking of this, the two division commanders nodded. Chief is right. Lu Shuming continued. So, I am still looking forward to tomorrow's finals. The two division commanders heard this and nodded. A level 6 hunter against a level 2 hunter. Originally, there was nothing to see. There was no suspense. However, because this level 5 hunter was Mo Shi, everything seemed to be confusing. From the looks of it, Mo Shi was able to deal with a level 1 hunter with ease. He did not even use his full strength. Then, against a level 2 hunter, it was very likely that he would use his full strength. They were really looking forward to seeing what kind of limit Mo Shi could reach when he used his full strength. That night, the 20 or so factions had worked for nothing. The next day, Mo Shi slept until 10 o'clock before he woke up. He felt completely refreshed. Seeing that Mo Shi seemed to be very excited, he asked in sign language, "Brother Mo, you seem very happy." Mo Shi nodded. "Yes, I had a good sleep last night. Of course, I am in good spirits." In fact, the reason why he was happy was not only because he saw the confused expressions of the factions last night, but also because of the most important thing. That was today's finals. He was determined to win the championship, and he was also determined to get those rewards. With a thought, Mo Shi placed everyone back into the tent. He put away the dragon cave. More than an hour passed in the blink of an eye. At around 11:40, Mo Shi led the World Society members into the arena. Everyone in the martial arts arena had their eyes on the World Society members. Those forces that tried to destroy the World Society last night were all dumbfounded when they saw the arrival of the World Society. What happened? Where did they go last night? He disappeared all of a sudden and then reappeared this morning. Are these guys ghosts? What the hell? As for those forces who didn't plan to make a move last night but were planning to gloat, they saw that world will appear. They were all dumbfounded. I heard that there were many forces that went to destroy the World Society last night. Why are they still fine? Could it be that those forces are no match for the World Assembly? It doesn't seem like it. If they really aren't a match for the World Society, they should at least have injured members. But now, no matter if it's the World Society or those forces, none of them are injured. This is really strange. The fallen Feather Sword sect members were slightly disappointed when they saw the World Society appear. They had wanted to send people to destroy the World Society last night. But they heard that many forces had already gone, so they didn't make a move. After all, the most important thing for them was to win the championship of the martial arts tournament. If those forces went, the World Society would definitely be destroyed. Then, their level 2 Desolate Hunters would be able to win without a fight. They wouldn't have to reveal all their trump cards. But they didn't expect the World Society to be unharmed. This was King ridiculous. Luo Chenqiu glanced at the leaders of those forces and cursed in his heart. What the hell are you guys doing? So many forces and you can't even destroy a mere dozen people. What a bunch of trash. But then, he shifted his gaze to Mo Shi. It didn't matter. Even if these trash were useless, there was still the fallen Feather Sword sect. Later on in the arena, Xiaofan would kill the World Society's leader in front of everyone. It would be considered as upholding justice. The fallen Feather Sword sect would win the hearts of the people. Not only would they win the championship, but they would also be able to rank in the top 10 in the overall evaluation. 3 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of this, he called the level 2 Desolate Hunter over again. He reminded him, later on in the arena, don't hold back. Kill him as soon as possible. Zhao Huan puffed out his chest confidently. Sect leader, don't worry. A mere level 6 Desolate Hunter is nothing in my eyes. Of course, I won't underestimate him. I won't give him any chance. Luo Chenqiu was slightly relieved. He nodded and said, yes, that's for the best. Finally it was noon. Under everyone's gazes, the referee walked up the arena. Unlike the previous appearances, this time, the referee acted as the host. The finals of this year's Martial Battle Assembly is about to begin under everyone's anticipation. The first to appear is the most talented young genius of the fallen Feather Sword sect, level 2 Desolate Hunter, Zhao Huan. Before the referee finished speaking, Zhao Huan leaped onto the arena. Although she was a woman, she was valiant and her movements were clean and neat. She had both the gentleness of a woman and the elegance of a man. This immediately caused a burst of applause at the scene. Good. Beautiful. As expected of a level 2 Desolate Hunter. Then the referee said again. The next to appear is the leader of World Society. As a level 5 Desolate Hunter, he has overcome all difficulties and made a breakthrough in battle. As a level 6 Desolate Hunter, he has defeated several Desolate Hunters. Mo Shi. This time, what welcomed Mo Shi was sparse applause. At the same time, it was accompanied by waves of boos. I really don't know how such a person can make it to the end. He even killed the Saintess. He's simply inhumane. Yes, everyone in the White Lotus School has done good deeds their whole life. Even some demonic and evil cults wouldn't do anything to the White Lotus School. But he killed the Saintess of the White Lotus School. Such a person really deserves to die. Kill him. Kill him. Avenge the Saintess. Kill him. The crowd was getting more and more irritable. Mo Shi, on the other hand, was neither hurried nor slow as he slowly walked into the ring. He didn't care about the curses of the people below the arena. A true warrior dared to face the curses of the crowd. He dared to laugh at this bumpy life. He dared to bear the malice of the world. At most, he would just destroy them. Finally, when Mo Shi walked onto the arena and stood opposite Zhao Huan, Zhao Huan's face was full of disdain. I said, if you dare to enter the arena, die. Mo Shi laughed and didn't say anything. He always liked to speak with his actions. Chapter 327. In the arena, under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, Zhao Huan puffed out her chest and raised her head, looking at Mo Shi proudly. The expression on her face, the gaze in her eyes, and the way she stood. All of them showed one word: disdain. At the same time she finally faced Mo Shi and said, Brother Shi, I've said it before. If you dare to enter the arena, die. Mo Shi smiled. The last person who dared to speak to him like this had long been buried with grass as tall as a person. However, he did not say anything. He was a person who didn't like to talk nonsense. He would just fight. The referee looked at the time. 12:05. He said to Mo Shi and Zhao Huan, If you're ready, you can start now. As soon as the referee finished speaking, Zhao Huan's aura suddenly changed. She no longer looked like a valiant woman. Instead, she was filled with a tough, powerful, and mysterious aura. She had not condensed a genetic martial art. Since the sect leader had said that she had to make this kid unable to resist. Then, she would use her strongest move. She scratched the tip of her right index finger with her left hand. A bloody wound appeared. Her right index finger kept moving in the air. As she moved, a blood-red hexagram pattern appeared in the air. In the next instant, flames began to burn on the hexagram. As the flames burned, a spatial door seemed to open in the hexagram pattern. It was pitch black inside the door. When everyone saw this, they looked at the spatial door in surprise. What is this? I've never seen it before. The big shots at the side of the arena saw this scene. All of them opened their eyes wide. Could it be? It can't really be. Didn't they say that that family had already ceased to exist thousands of years ago? When Commander Lu Shuming saw this scene, his eyes also flickered. A division commander behind him asked, "Commander, this can't really be that family, right?" Lu Shuming nodded. "It should be. According to our intelligence, that family didn't go extinct. Instead, they have descendants who passed it down." The other division master also looked surprised. "If that's the case, then sect leader Mo is afraid." Lu Shuming nodded. "This time, no matter what, he won't be able to create another miracle. The two of you should be ready at all times. If Mo Shi's life is in danger, immediately take him away from the scene. But do it neatly and don't let anyone find out that it was done by the military. After all, the will of the people could not be defied. If people find out that it was us who saved him, I'm afraid no one will listen to us anymore." The two division commanders had serious expressions on their faces. "Yes, Chief." At that moment in the ring, a huge figure slowly emerged from the dark space gate. The space door had a diameter of more than 50 meters. But it still seemed a little too crowded. With great difficulty, it squeezed out of the spatial gate. A moment later, he jumped onto the arena. Only then did everyone see its true appearance. A giant ape. The giant ape was about 50 meters tall. Its limbs were thick and sturdy, and its entire body was covered in black fur. The corners of his wide mouth revealed two thick fangs. His eyes were bloodshot. It looked extremely mysterious, yet extremely powerful. When the crowd saw this, they immediately exclaimed, "Khan! Summoner! Oh my god, it's really a summoner! Hasn't the summoner clan been exterminated? Hasn't their inheritance been cut off?" In the past, I only saw summoners in legends and history books. I didn't expect to see a living summoner today. I didn't come here in vain today. In the history of the Flaming Land, there was such a clan. Their clan could use blood to open a channel. From there, they could summon desolate beasts from thousands of miles away, or even tens of thousands of miles away. They could also control these desolate beasts to help them fight. Usually, a hunter or a desolate hunter could summon a desolate beast that was 3 levels higher than their own realm under extreme circumstances. Therefore, every summoner was a powerful existence that could fight at least 3 levels higher. But later, for some reason, this clan seemed to have been wiped out overnight. All the summoners had also disappeared. In the 10,000 years since then, not a single summoner had appeared. Who would have thought that 10,000 years later, a summoner would appear once again? At this moment, everyone looked at Mo Shi, who was opposite the giant ape. They felt that Mo Shi was so small in front of the giant ape. Looking at the giant ape's aura, it was very likely to be a level 4 mutated desolate beast, which was equivalent to a level 4 desolate hunter. Mo Shi was very strong and could kill a level 1 desolate hunter. But no matter how strong he was, there was a limit. In front of a level 4 mutated desolate beast, he was completely an ant. As a result, the crowd was filled with angry, excited, and gloating voices. "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" Some people even couldn't wait to see Mo Shi beg for mercy. When he begs for mercy later, this summoner must not let him go. Yes, the saintess has already admitted defeat, but he still killed her. When he begs for mercy later, the summoner will not let him go. In the fallen Feathersword sect's seat, Sect Master Luo Chenchio's eyes flashed, full of anticipation. He knew that Xiaofan could defeat Mo Shi with his own strength. But to be safe, he still summoned a level 4 mutated desolate beast. This way it would be foolproof. At the same time, he was also glad that when he killed that woman, he left her infant behind. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to obtain such a powerful helper. At the same time he killed her mother, but she didn't know that after she grew up, she worked for him and even treated him as her adoptive father and was grateful to him. This kind of feeling was really wonderful. At the same time, on the rostrum beside the arena, a group of elders were shocked. They looked at Mo Shi as if they were looking at a dead man. They all knew the strength of the summoner race from the history books and legends. Now that a level 4 mutated desolate beast was summoned, no matter how strong Mo Shi was, could he fight against a level 4 mutated desolate beast? Only Lu Shuming frowned slightly at this moment. It's actually a level 4 mutated desolate beast. It seems, if Mo Shi's life is in danger later, I will have to do it myself. The two division masters were secretly surprised. How long had it been since the chief fought? Moreover, the chief had always fought against foreign enemies or desolate beasts. He had never fought for the life and death of a junior in Yuzhou. As an important figure, he followed the natural law. As long as there wasn't too much chaos in Yuzhou, he would usually not fight. But this time, he was going to fight for a junior. How could they not be surprised? At the same time in the arena, Mo Shi saw the mutated desolate beast. The blood dragon's eyes swept over it and instantly saw its level. Level 4 mutated desolate beast. He smiled. How dare he show off his slight skill in front of an expert? Almighty heavenly dragon. Chapter 328. Mo Shi couldn't help but laugh when he saw the mutated wild beast. It was just a level 4 mutated wild beast. The next moment, he moved his mind. In an instant, it appeared in front of him. The sea dragon avatar appeared. Its body shape was similar to a giant crocodile. However, there were many barbs on its head, making it look even more ferocious and powerful. It was more than 20 meters long and covered in hard scales. Its 4 legs were no longer attached to the ground. Instead, they supported its body and made it stand more than 5 meters tall. It had a huge tail that looked like a giant beam with 3 sharp blades. A pair of blood-red eyes glinted fiercely. Everyone at the scene was dumbfounded when they saw this. Another summoner? How is this possible? Didn't they say that summoners are extinct? How come there are 2 summoners in one battle? Damn, are you kidding me? At the edge of the arena, on the rostrum, the big shots all had looks of disbelief. Another expert from the summoner clan. This is unbelievable. I didn't expect this. Luo Chenqiu of the Fallen Leaves Sword Sect was shocked. Damn, do you have to do this? This kid is also a summoner? God, are you playing with me? I finally managed to cultivate a summoner and relied on her to shine in the martial arts tournament to raise the Fallen Leaves Sword Sect's ranking. You, on the other hand, have created another summoner for me. At the same time, on the rostrum beside the arena, the big shots all had their own ideas. The Holy Mother of the White Lotus Cult, by Lian Hua, frowned. She even glanced at Lu Shuming secretly. She saw that Lu Shuming's gaze was fixed on Mo Shi and had never left him. This made Bai Lian Hua frown even deeper. It seemed that it would be troublesome to kill this kid. On the arena, Zhao Huan saw the mutated wild beast summoned by Mo Shi and his eyes flashed with confidence. He didn't expect this guy to be a summoner too. As the saying goes, people of the same trade are enemies. Only people of the same trade have hatred. When people of the same trade meet, their eyes would turn red. Although this kid was also a summoner, the desolate beast he summoned was only about 20 meters long. One had to know that desolate beasts were judged by their size. 20 meters long, even in combat form, it was not that big. Furthermore, Mo Shi was only a level 6 hunter, so the beasts he could summon would at most be level 9. Compared to his own level 4 mutated dire beast, the difference was like heaven and earth. Thinking of this, she pointed at the sea dragon clone and said fiercely, "Tear it apart." When the giant ape heard this, it immediately moved. Its body, which was originally standing upright, was now bent down. He landed on all fours. He crouched low, like a cheetah that was about to pounce. Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. From their point of view, the desolate beast that Mo had summoned was far weaker than this giant ape. The giant ape could easily tear apart the desolate beast summoned by Mo. However, in the next moment, something happened that made everyone's jaws drop. Just as the giant ape lowered its body to the lowest point, as if it was about to shoot an arrow, it suddenly turned around. It fled toward the hexagram space-time portal behind it. Everyone present suddenly felt like they had been F***ed. It escaped? The giant ape actually escaped. What the F***ck is going on? Only Xiaofan felt a chill in her heart. Her summoned beast was afraid. A creature that could make her summoned beast afraid must be far stronger than her summoned beast. Thinking of this, she looked at the strange creature that was only 20 meters long in disbelief. However, just as her gaze fell on the sea dragon clone, a bolt of lightning was instantly released from the sea dragon clone. The lightning bolt with a diameter of half a meter hit the giant ape. Buzz buzz, the giant ape's body was suddenly covered with electric currents like small snakes. The giant ape let out a wail and fell to the ground with a scream. The sea dragon clone jumped up and instantly pounced on the giant ape. It began to tear the ape apart. On the arena, the smell of blood suddenly filled the air. The scene was so tragic that it was unbearable to look at. In a moment, the giant ape was swallowed by the sea dragon clone. After eating, it still didn't seem to be satisfied. It licked its lips with its scarlet tongue as if it hadn't had enough. Then it suddenly raised its head and stared at Xiaofan with its blood-red eyes. Seeing this, Xiaofan knew something was wrong. She quickly turned around and fled. However, the sea dragon clone only took one step and jumped behind Xiaofan. It swung its long tail. Slap! It slapped Xiaohuan's back hard. Xiaohuan was only a level 2 desolate hunter. How could he withstand a blow from a level 5 mutated wild beast? His whole body was instantly smashed into meat paste by this tail. Everyone at the scene instantly fell silent. They thought that this time, Mo would definitely lose. Even be killed. But they never thought that what they saw was the opposite of what they thought. Not only did Mo not lose, but he also killed Xiaohuan in an instant. This was really hard to believe. And some of the desolate hunters who had been defeated by Mo were all secretly scared. The opponent they were fighting was actually an existence equivalent to a level 5 desolate hunter. Fortunately, Mo didn't kill them. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. In the Fallen Leaves Sword sect, Luo Chenqiu stood up abruptly. His eyes were filled with anger. He really couldn't accept this result. On the rostrum, everyone was also silent. Their eyes fell on Mo sea dragon clone. The sea dragon clone could kill a level 4 mutated wild beast in an instant, which was equivalent to killing a level 4 desolate hunter. And among them, except for one level 4 desolate hunter, the rest were all desolate hunters below level 3. Suddenly, they realized that the guy they didn't think highly of before was now someone they could look up to. This kid actually had such a powerful trump card. Originally, some of them were still thinking whether they could comply with public opinion and kill Mo. But now, they were all afraid because of their previous thoughts. If they really did harm to Mo, it was equivalent to offending a level 5 desolate hunter. Their entire sect would most likely be annihilated. Lu Shuming's eyes flashed slightly. When he saw Xiaohuan summon a mutated wild beast, he had already planned to help Mo when he was in danger. He didn't expect that Mo would also summon a mutated wild beast. And he even killed Xiaohuan's beast in an instant. In the end, even Xiaohuan was killed in an instant. Now, it seemed that Mo's real combat power was actually equivalent to a level 5 desolate hunter. The same level as himself. This was really hard to believe. At the same time, Mo had created too many miracles. Telekinesis and hunter dual cultivation. Dual genetic martial arts. Summoner. It was equivalent to a level 5 desolate hunter's beast. All of this made Mo seem like a legendary existence. This was simply unbelievable. Chapter 329. After the sea dragon doppelganger killed Xiaohuan, the arena was already drenched in blood and a complete mess. On this bloody arena, Mo Shi's gaze swept over the surroundings. This time, no one below the arena dared to meet Mo Shi's gaze. It was as if they were afraid that they would anger Mo Shi with a single glance. This was a powerful existence with a level 5 mutated wild beast. Wouldn't it be courting death if they provoked him? Mo Shi's gaze finally landed on the referee below the arena. You can announce the results. Only then did the referee come back to his senses, his face a little ashamed. From the moment the first mutated wild beast was summoned, he had already chosen to leave the arena. Until now. This was a little dereliction of duty. But he was also helpless. After all, the strength of these two wild beasts far exceeded his strength. And the battle between these two was far from what he could control. He could only try to stay as far away as possible to avoid being affected by the battle between these two. At this moment, when he heard Mo Shi's words, he wiped away his sweat. Nodding awkwardly, he came to the arena. Jumping over the scattered flesh and blood on the ground, he came to Mo Shi. Then he looked at Xiaofan's corpse, and his gaze returned to Mo Shi. The champion of this martial arts tournament has been decided. World Society's leader, Mo Shi. Everyone present was still in a daze. The ferocious mutated wild beast in the arena made them very flustered. Seeing this, the referee smiled at Mo Shi. That. Leader Mo, can you temporarily put away your summoned beast? Mo Shi nodded and moved his mind. The sea dragon clone disappeared instantly. The referee was slightly stunned. This was much easier than when Xiaofan summoned his beast just now. When Xiaofan summoned his beast, it was as if he was constipated and took a long time to summon it. And whether Mo Shi summoned it or put it away, it was all in an instant. It wasn't until the sea dragon clone disappeared from the arena that everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. That mutated desolate beast gave off an extremely oppressive feeling. Apart from those who were desolate hunters and above, who were barely able to withstand it, everyone else was terrified. It was as if he was walking beside the mouth of a giant beast. At this moment, the people from the World Society couldn't help but applaud. The little monk put his palms together and closed his eyes. Just like his master, he piously chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha, boss is awesome. Emma and Happy held each other's hands tightly. Emma had never doubted that Happy could become the champion. Happy, on the other hand, was constantly on tenterhooks. As the saying goes, concern leads to confusion. During the battle between Mo Shi and Xiaohuan, she had been holding Emma's hand tightly. At this moment, his palms were sweating. Seeing that Mo Shi had won the championship, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. As for the other hunters, they were a little worried. However, they still had some understanding of Mr. Mo's strength. At this moment, it was reasonable to see Mr. Mo win the championship. With their applause, the audience also applauded. However, because Mo Shi had killed the Holy Virgin of the White Lotus Society, he was already unpopular. Now, he had brutally killed a summoner, and it was still a woman. This made him even more unpopular. Therefore, the applause at the scene was a little sparse. Mo Shi didn't care about this. They wanted to kill him, but they were not strong enough and were killed by him instead. There was nothing wrong with this. The only thing he cared about was the championship's reward. At this moment, after the referee announced the champion, he turned to look at the 10 big shots on the rostrum. As for the 10 big shots, they looked at each other. None of them seemed to be willing. After all, Mo Shi was unpopular. The 10 of them were unwilling to let Mo Shi obtain the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield, regardless of whether it was for personal or for the benefit of their own forces. However, they didn't dare to offend the military big shots. Therefore, everyone looked at Lu Shuming. One of the big shots said, "Commander Lu, what do you think?" Lu Shuming laughed and said, "The military's attitude has always been very clear. We are only here to watch the competition. We will not participate in anything related to the competition." When the 10 big shots heard this, they looked at each other again. In the end, the village chief of the corpse village, who was ranked first, said slowly, "In my opinion, although Leader Mo is cruel and merciless, it is really worrying to give him the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. However, the organizing committee of the martial arts tournament is made up of the senior members of the various sections. We can't go back on our words. Therefore, we can't give him any less of the rewards. However, if the World Congress really does evil in the future and runs rampant like the evil sects and demons, then all of our forces have the responsibility to eliminate them. After that, he cupped his hands to the military and said, "If they are too strong and we can't do anything to them, I hope Commander Lu can lend a hand." His words sounded dignified and dignified. Even Lu Shuming didn't have anything else to say. The other big shots were also reluctant to give the rewards to Mo Shi. However, with Lu Shuming here, they didn't dare to go against Mo Shi too openly. The Saintess, the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society, saw that everyone was reluctant. She took the initiative and said, "The village chief is right. Then, let me and the village chief give the rewards to Leader Mo." Everyone was stunned. There was a hint of admiration on their faces. Soon, the referee acted as the temporary host and said, "Then next, the village chief of the Corpse Village and the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society will give the rewards to our champion." Bai Lianhua got up and took the incomplete dragon vein. She tapped the ground with the tip of her foot. Her body was like a cloud as she floated into the arena. She reached out and handed the incomplete dragon vein to Mo Shi and said solemnly, "Leader Mo, with your talent, your achievements in the future will far surpass us. However, your murderous aura is too strong. I hope you can restrain yourself and treat others with kindness. If you do, you will definitely become a grandmaster in the future." Seeing this, everyone on the spectator stand was full of admiration. The Saintess of the White Lotus Society was killed, and the Holy Mother wants to give this guy an award. If it were me, I would be lucky if I didn't attack him on the spot. Why give him an award? What do you know? The Holy Mother is using her own actions to influence him. I hope he can walk on the right path in the future. The Holy Mother is really great. Apart from the Holy Mother, I'm afraid no one else can do this. Of course. Otherwise, how can she become the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society? I love her. I'm a fan now. Mo Shi saw this and sneered in his heart. This woman, with this wave of coquettish actions, attracted a lot of fans. Chapter 330. Holy Mother White Lotus, under the circumstances that her own sex Holy Maiden was killed. She actually went up to the arena to award Mo Shi the prize. This naturally attracted a wave of fans. The village chief of the Corpse Village, at this time, also held an ancient scroll and jumped onto the arena. He handed the scroll in his hand to Mo Shi. He had never been a person of many words, and now he was facing Mo Shi, this unpopular person. He only said two simple sentences, "Walk the right path, Mo Xia." Mo Shi looked at the prize handed to him by the two people, secretly puzzled. These old things on the rostrum, in addition to being stronger than the other, were also more shrewd than the other. Under the circumstances that he had angered everyone, they still gave him such a precious thing. There must be something fishy about this. With Mo Shi's caution, he did not believe that these guys would give him the prize so easily. Even if they were under pressure from Lu Shuming, they would not let him get the prize so easily. Thinking of this, Mo Shi planned to plunder the memories of these two people, to see what was wrong. But when his dragon's will probed, intending to plunder their memories, he found that these two people's bodies seemed to have spontaneously reacted. This reaction was not a conscious reaction of their own. They did not even know that Mo Shi was going to tamper with their memories. This reaction, when a cultivator's cultivation reached a certain level, their body would produce a self-protection mechanism. When the body encountered some kind of injury, it would automatically resist. So even if Mo Shi had the ability to plunder memories, it was impossible for him to plunder the memories of any strong person. But at this time, the self-protection mechanism of these two people's bodies was obviously not strong enough to completely resist Mo Shi's memory plunder. After a slight resistance, they were completely crushed by Mo Shi's dragon's will. Then, he plundered the memories of these two people. Then, he quickly flipped through the White Lotus's memories in his mind. From her memories, Mo Shi saw some things. Sure enough, this woman was not as benevolent and forgiving as she appeared on the surface. Secretly, she was a vicious and merciless woman who would do anything by hook or by crook. In her memories, Mo Shi saw that she was actually very suspicious of the village chief of the corpse-chasing village. Based on her experience, the village chief of corpse-chasing village was extremely shrewd. There was no way he would give the map of the ancient dragon battlefield to Mo Shi. Why did he give it to her this time? She couldn't figure it out. However, she knew that there must be some mystery behind this. Emosure then checked the memories of the village chief. Looking at it this way, he could see that this old thing was indeed sinister. It turned out that he had secretly colluded with a few big shots to swap these two items. The two items that appeared in front of everyone were fake. However, Emosure couldn't expose them yet. Because no one had seen these two items before, no one could tell if they were real or fake. Just based on his own mouth, he claimed that it was fake, but these big shots all said that it was real. It was self-evident who these people would believe. Moreover, the village chief of corpse-chasing village, this old thing, had invited the original owner of the incomplete dragon vein. That meant that he wasn't the descendant of that mighty senior. That descendant's surname was Yang. His gaze trembled slightly as he looked at the two items that Emosure had already taken from him. He was slightly reluctant to part with them. After all, this was something that had been passed down in his family for hundreds of years. How could he be willing to give it away just like that? He laughed bitterly and let out a long sigh. Then he turned to Emosure and said, "Gang leader Mo, my family's ancestor said that if we still haven't discovered the secret of the incomplete dragon vein after 500 years, we will donate this incomplete dragon vein to the martial competition as a reward. Only the capable can obtain it. Now that you are so talented, you can be considered a capable person. I hope that you can discover the secret of this incomplete dragon vein." He continued speaking. "The Yang family doesn't have any other requests. If you can really discover its secret in the future, we only hope that you can walk the right path in the future. Don't be bewitched by evil and not lose yourself because of the desire to kill." Emosure looked at this young person and then at the village chief. He took over this young person's memories. He realized that this young person didn't know anything. Everything was being manipulated by the village chief behind the scenes. Emosure sneered in his heart. But on the surface, he acted as if nothing had happened. He said to the young person, "Many thanks to the ancestor of the Yang family." Then he said to the village chief and the Holy Mother White Lotus, "Many thanks." The two of them nodded and then left the arena. Emosure looked at the back of the village chief and sneered in his heart. He had just thoroughly checked the village chief's memories and already knew the location where they had hidden the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. These two things were hidden separately. The map of the ancient dragon battlefield was in the village, and the incomplete dragon vein was in the second-ranked Tian Dao sect. These two forces had colluded with the other three forces and secretly hid these two treasures in their respective forces, claiming them as their own. Of course, they had also promised many benefits to the other forces. Coupled with the strength of the first and second-ranked forces, the other three forces had no choice but to submit. Emosure's eyes swept across the top 5 forces one by one. "Since you were heartless first, then don't blame the world society for being unjust." He quietly hid the cold light in his eyes. Emosure got off the arena. But in his heart, he had already sentenced these big forces to death. What righteous sects? What top 10 forces? They were all a bunch of insidious villains. They were not even as good as the so-called diabolism and evil sections. The diabolism and evil sects were cruel, and their cultivation methods were indeed against the way of heaven. But they were the same on the surface. And these so-called righteous sects all appeared to be good people on the surface, but secretly caused trouble for you. They were really more dangerous than the diabolism and evil sections. Next, another big shot came up and gave Emosure a card. He said, "There is 100 million in this card. This is the third reward for you this time." Everyone present was envious when they saw this. 100 million. I'm afraid I won't be able to earn 100 million in my lifetime. You think too highly of yourself. Don't even think about earning it in your next life, let alone in this life. Emosure took the reward without any expression on his face. The audience understood one by one. A mere 100 million is nothing in the eyes of a gang. We can't guess the thoughts of the rich. The martial arts competition came to an end. Emosure led the members of the World Society down the mountain. The other forces also went down the mountain one after another. Only the big shots of the top 10 forces did not leave. A big shot asked the village chief of the corpse village. "Village chief, are you just going to give those 2 things to him?" Hearing this, the village chief's face was as calm as an ancient well. These two things are like hot potatoes. Chapter 331. The village chief looked at the disappearing north shadow of the world society and slowly said, "Those two things are like hot potatoes right now." When the group of big shots heard this, they all came to a realization. If those two things fell into Mo Shi's hands, it was inevitable that many people would covet them. Although many forces were afraid of the military and didn't dare to do anything to the world society. But it couldn't be ruled out that some forces would take risks and kill people to steal the treasures. However, a big shot raised another question. Even so, wouldn't it be a pity if those two things end up in the hands of some irrelevant people or even get lost? There was still no expression on the bony face of the corpse-chasing village's village chief. He slowly said, "If that's the case, it's the will of heaven. You must know that the will of heaven cannot be defied." Everyone immediately flattered him. Village chief is wise. The village chief's realm is really something we can only look up to. Village chief, when will I be able to reach your level? The village chief slowly shook his head and said, "I'm just saying. I was just speaking casually. You don't have to take it too seriously." As for the four big shots who were in cahoots with the village chief, they were all secretly admiring him. The village chief looked like an ordinary old man who had one foot in the grave. Any stranger wouldn't take him seriously. But they didn't know that the village chief was the most shrewd among the 10 people and the one they couldn't afford to offend. More than 2 hours later, Mo Shi and the others left the Netherworld Mountain. "Leader, where are we going now?" a desolate hunter asked. Mo Shi replied, "Back to the base." The most important thing now was to improve his and the Sea Dragon's strength as soon as possible. Only by improving his and the Sea Dragon's strength could he snatch the incomplete Dragon Vein and the ancient Dragon Battlefield map. Of course, if he had to take the risk, he should be able to steal it with his concealment and disguise skills. But was he that kind of person? To cheat? To steal? Not to talk about martial ethics. Whatever Mo Shi wanted, he had always snatched it from others in an open and above-board manner. Whoever dared to resist, he would destroy them. This was his style. Therefore, before going to those two sects, Mo Shi decided to raise his strength by 1 or 2 levels. Then he would increase the strength of the Sea Dragon clone by 1 or 2 levels. Many more mechas were manufactured. At that time, he would directly crush them. That night, they rested in a city not far from the foot of the mountain. The next morning, Mo Shi and the other desolate hunters boarded their hoverboards and flew to Hunting Island No. 1. They flew over a snow mountain in front of them and over a small forest. The sky above this forest was often shrouded in fog. When Mo Shi and the others were passing through the forest, the small monk suddenly said, "Don't worry, boss, there's poison in the fog." As he spoke, he passed the multifunctional watch to Mo Shi. On the interface of the multifunctional watch, it showed, dispersant 30%. The energy dispersing agent did not disperse the energy in one's body. Instead, it temporarily dispersed the energy in one's body. On the Flame Origin continent, its greatest use was medicine. When treating the injuries of certain cultivators, it was necessary to temporarily disperse the energy in their bodies. At this time, dispersing the energy in the bodies of the desolate hunters behind Mo Shi was absolutely fatal to them. Who knew how many forces were eyeing them covetously? Mo Shi turned around and glanced at these desolate hunters. On the surface, there seemed to be nothing wrong with them. This was also one of the characteristics of the energy dispersing agent. If the victim did not use his energy, he would not realize that his energy had been dispersed. At this time, hearing the small monk's words, they began to use the energy in their bodies. With this test, their expressions changed one after another. "My energy has decreased a lot. Mine has decreased too. No, mine too." Among all of them, there were only a few who were not affected. One of them was Mo Shi, who was immune to all poisons. How could he be afraid of this? The other one was Emma. As a vampire, her body was completely different from that of humans. Therefore, the energy dispersing agent had no effect on her. There were also Happy and the small monk. The small monk was a psychic master and had no energy in his body. As a prophet, Happy also had no energy in his body. Mo Shi shook his head and took out more than 10 bottles of recovery agent. He handed them to these people. He said, Quickly fly out of the fog and take these agents. Although the effect of the recovery agent was good, even if they recovered in the fog, they would still be poisoned again. Therefore they had to fly out of the fog before taking them. More than 10 minutes later, they finally flew out of the fog and came to the plains outside. The group of desolate hunters followed Mo Shi's instructions and took the recovery agent one after another. The recovery agent needed about 5 minutes for them to fully recover. During this period, it was considered a dangerous period. Mo Shi used his dragon psyche to check the surroundings. With this check, he found that something was wrong. In the sky, a total of 30 mechas suddenly appeared. These mechas surrounded the people of the world society and aimed at them. At the same time, more than 20 desolate hunters appeared behind these mechas. More than 20 desolate hunters and 30 mechas. It was equivalent to more than 50 desolate hunters. They looked down at Mo Shi from their high vantage points. Mo Shi glanced at them. These people were basically people who had appeared in the martial arts competition. They belonged to various sects and gangs. It was just that these forces were basically ranked below 50. Mo Shi sneered secretly. It seemed that they all wanted to kill him to improve their rankings. However, the most important thing was definitely the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient battlefield of the dragons. The person in the lead was a young man with greasy hair and a powdered face. With a smile on his face, he looked down at the people of the world society. Mo Shi, you killed the Holy Mother and the Holy Daughter of the White Lotus Society. This is against the will of the people and even against the will of the heavens. Today, we will kill you and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Mo Shi looked back at the desolate hunters behind him. It would take about 4 minutes for them to recover. However, Mo Shi was not worried. He looked up and said, "With just more than 20 desolate hunters and more than 30 mechas?" Before he finished speaking, his mind moved. In front of him, a cheetah mecha appeared out of thin air. Then, a second, third, and fourth mechas appeared. There were a total of 20 cheetah mechas. Then, there were 15 giant eagle mechas. These mechas were lined up in a row in front of Mo Shi. Under the sunlight, they were shining brightly. There was a slight breeze in the air. When the desolate hunters in the sky saw this, they were slightly surprised. They had more than 20 forces and only managed to gather 30 mechas. Now, the world society had as many as 30 mechas. This was King ridiculous. However, they were only surprised for a moment. The young man with greasy hair and a powdered face in the sky still had a smile on his face. Well, even if your mechas can offset our mechas, your desolate hunters have all been poisoned by the strength dispersing agent. They won't be able to use their energy in a short period of time. So die. Chapter 332. Mo Shi faintly smiled when he heard the words of the oily-faced young man. With a thought, the sea dragon avatar appeared in front of him. In the face of absolute strength, what's the use of numbers? When those people saw the sea dragon avatar, their expressions changed slightly. However, that was all. Soon they calmed down. Obviously, they had expected Mo Shi to summon this mutant dire beast. The youth with oily hair and powdered face said, "You have a level 5 mutant dire beast, but don't we have a level 5 desolate hunter?" As he spoke, the greasy-haired youth took out a teleportation stone. In the next moment, the stone quickly exploded, forming a cross. At the same time, in the center of the cross, a blue and white figure quickly condensed. It was a haggard old man. He looked like he was wrapped in skin and bones. His eyes were sunken into their sockets. The skin on his body didn't seem to have any moisture. It was wrinkled and wrapped around his bones. Mo Shi looked at this person with the blood dragon's eye. His expression changed slightly. This person was actually a level 7 desolate hunter. He was 2 levels higher than his sea dragon avatar. He was puzzled. If the first-ranked corpse village had a level 7 desolate hunter overseeing it, he could accept it. But now, these forces ranked below 50 actually had a level 7 desolate hunter? This was simply impossible. He directly plundered the memories of those few desolate hunters. After looking through the memories of these people, he suddenly understood. It turned out that this level 7 desolate hunter was really from the corpse village. Previously, the village chief of the corpse village had specially gathered these forces. He had asked them to come and besiege the World Society. These forces were afraid of the World Society's strength. The village chief of the corpse village had sent 10 mechas and the level 7 desolate hunter of the corpse village. These people were full of confidence and wanted to kill Mo Sure and wipe out the World Society. Mo Sure's gaze gradually turned cold. Corpse village, it won't be long before the World Society meets you. However, the most important thing now was how to deal with this level 7 desolate hunter in front of him. Mo Sure had at least 4 ways to deal with such an old guy. However, the other methods were too destructive, and could even endanger the lives of these people. Therefore, Mo Sure said to Emma in her mind, "Think of a way to provoke Happy so that she can use her power as a prophet." The last time Happy used his power as a god's prophet, he had suffered a great shock. After waking up, he had forgotten everything that had happened. Of course, it was unrealistic for him to immediately use his Heaven's Oracle ability. Therefore, someone had to provoke her. At the same time, Mo Sure ordered the little monk in his mind. "Seize their mechas." The little monk's 10 fingers danced quickly on the keyboard as he said, "I'm already doing it." It'll take at most 3 minutes. It seemed that the little monk's skill in hijacking mechas had improved again. In order to stall for time, Mo Sure said to the skinny old man, "You must be an expert from the corpse-chasing village." The old man raised his eyelids slightly and spoke in a slightly hoarse voice. "You have a good eye. But what a pity." Mo Sure asked. "Pity what?" The old man said, "It's a pity that a genius like you is going to die in my hands today." Mo Sure smiled. "Who said that I'm definitely going to die?" The old man said. "I said so." Mo Sure shrugged and said, "What if I can't die? Do you want to make a bet?" "Ha ha ha ha." The old man's laughter was very unpleasant to the ears. "I've never bet with someone who's about to die. You don't have to stall for time. It's useless. I'll send you on your way now." As an old fox who had lived for more than 470 years, how could he not know that Mo Sure was stalling for time? Mo Sure smiled a little awkwardly and said, "You saw through me. But how do you know that stalling for time is useless? Maybe it will be useful?" At the same time, behind Mo Sure, Happy was holding Emma's hand nervously, her eyes full of worry. It was as if she was asking, "Sister Emma, are these people strong?" Emma said, "They're very strong, especially that old man. He should be a level 6 or even level 7 desolate hunter. If he goes all out, not only will we be finished, but boss might not be able to escape either." Happy became even more nervous and gestured. "Brother Mo is so powerful. He must have a way." Emma laughed bitterly and shook her head. "Boss is powerful, but since these people dared to come, they must have planned everything. Especially that skinny old man. He's already got boss." When Happy heard this, his body trembled slightly due to nervousness and worry. Emma continued, "Happy, you don't want to see me die, right?" Happy shook his head. Emma said again, "You don't want to see boss die either." Happy nodded. Emma said, "So, Happy, try to make yourself angry. Think about how this person will kill all of us. He will kill boss." At that moment, Happy's body trembled even more violently. The darkness in his eyes had already begun to sway. Seeing that it was effective, Emma continued, "Now, among all of us, only you can stop him. If you can't stop him, then he will kill boss. He will twist boss's head off and dismember boss's limbs. Boss's blood will run dry, and no one will be able to collect boss's corpse. Perhaps it won't be long before boss is eaten by a passing desolate beast. Of course, it's more likely that these people will bring boss's corpse back to receive a reward. Their masters will hang boss's corpse on the city gate and let the wind blow on the rainforest and the sun shine on it. They will write up thousands of crimes for boss. The passers-by will curse boss." At this point, Happy's body was no longer trembling. The darkness in her eyes had completely disappeared. Chapter 333. The people from the various forces in the sky were extremely shocked. The mechas they brought with them were actually attacking them. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In just 2 seconds, 5 or 6 desolate hunters were killed. Although the desolate hunters could dodge the light beams shot out by the mechas. They didn't expect that the mechas they brought would suddenly betray them. If they reacted a little slower, their heads would be shot. They fell from the sky one after another. There were more than a dozen mechas that were shooting at the old man from the corpse village. However, the old man from the corpse village was not only fast, but his reaction was also fast enough. His body flashed lightly and he avoided the light beams. Then he flew in front of the keyboard player and asked, "What's going on?" The keyboard player looked at a bunch of random codes on the screen. His back was already soaked in sweat. "I don't know. Our mechas seem to have been hijacked." The old man from the corpse village frowned. He didn't care about the mechas of the other forces. What he cared about was the 10 mechas of the corpse village. After all, these were all shining silver. One less was equivalent to losing hundreds of millions. He was a level 7 desolate hunter, but he still lost hundreds of millions. Where would he put his old face? Can you think of a way to get it back? Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, the keyboard player's head had already been shot through. It seemed that it was impossible. Seeing this, the skinny old man was instantly furious. After dodging the attacks of more than a dozen mechas, he glanced at the world society. He saw the little monk operating on the keyboard. He immediately controlled the hoverboard under his feet and was about to fly toward the little monk. But at this moment, a thick electric current with a diameter of 1 meter shot straight toward him from the sea dragon clone. No matter how fast he was, he couldn't be faster than lightning. Whoosh whoosh! Streaks of electricity instantly crawled all over his body like little snakes. The pain in his body caused him to slow down a little. At the same time, the sea dragon clone opened its mouth. Squeak! A sharp whistle was heard. Rings of sound waves spread out along with the old man. The old man felt as if every organ in his body was about to explode. The old man's speed slowed down a lot. At the same time, Emoshur's dragon will also attack the old man's brain. The old man felt a sharp pain in his head and finally stopped. Right at this moment, whoosh 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 whoosh, several beams of light pierced through the old man's body. Ah! The old man opened his mouth and roared angrily. A shiny saliva hung between his upper and lower teeth. In his roar, the saliva was like a clothesline blown by a hurricane, shaking violently. He was not angry because of pain, but because he felt insulted. He was a dignified level 7 hunter. These people were completely as insignificant as ants in front of him. He thought that he could kill him with a flip of his palm. But now, not only did he fail to kill it, he was even injured. What a great humiliation! It was a great humiliation. In his anger, he no longer had any scruples. He tore off the sleeve of his right arm. It revealed a thick mechanical arm inside. Although his body was skinny, this mechanical arm was twice as thick as the one he was looking for. Soon, the flames burned and his genetic martial art condensed. This genetic martial art was in the shape of a fist. It was just that this fist was at least 10 times bigger than a normal person's fist. And with the addition of energy, the fist could no longer expand. But now, in his anger, he did not add energy to the genetic martial art. Instead, he directly used the strongest form of the genetic martial art, energy weapon. At this moment, whether it was the people of world society or the people of other factions, they all saw a red and white light condensing in front of the old man's energy weapon. Their expressions changed greatly. They could not imagine how powerful the energy weapon of a level 7 hunter was. The only thing they could do was to run. The scene suddenly became chaotic. The people in the sky fled in all directions. After all, the full power attack of a level 7 hunter was not something they could withstand, even if it was just the aftermath. On the ground, the people of world society had changed their expressions, but they did not run. Because Emoshur was still in front of them. Since Emoshur did not run, they did not need to run. In the sky, the old man's face had already revealed a sinister smile. Why not running? Do you think that no matter how you run, you will still die? That's the right way to think. All of you must die. At this moment, at the moment when the energy in his energy weapon was about to be released, a voice suddenly sounded. This voice was not loud, but in this chaotic battlefield, everyone could hear it clearly. Die! The next moment. Crack! A crack suddenly appeared on the genes of the old man without any warning. The energy that was about to be released could not be released. But the energy had already gathered in the genetic martial art and could not be released. It could only explode. Boom! The entire genetic martial art of the old man exploded. His right shoulder exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The right side of his face was blasted into a mess of flesh and blood. Originally, if this was all, he could at least keep his life. But this was not the end. Crack, crack, crack. Countless cracks began to appear on his body. Through the cracks, one could see the bright red flesh and pale white bones inside. Soon, the cracks covered his entire body. In the end, his body shattered into pieces the size of sand. The next moment, his entire body flowed down like a sand sculpture. Seeing this scene, the people who were running in the sky were all shocked. What's going on? Oh my God, this is... And on the ground when everyone saw this scene, they were all overjoyed. Heaven's speaker had returned. Emo turned around to look. At this moment, Happy raised his head and looked at the sky. There was not a trace of black in his eyes. Even his pupils were white. It looked a little strange, but it also gave people a mysterious feeling. Happy did not look at Emo. Instead, he looked at the two people who had already escaped 5 kilometers away. His lips opened slightly, and his voice was not loud. Die! But this voice entered everyone's ears, as if it was a voice that came from the bottom of their hearts. Looking at the two people in the sky again, his body was also constantly cracking and cracking. In the end, they flowed down like sand sculptures. Seeing this, Emo was slightly stunned. Last time, Happy could only kill one person at a time. This time he could actually kill 2 people at a time. It seemed that Happy's ability had increased again. Die! This time it was 3 people. Die! This time it was 5 people. Die! 10 people. Chapter 334. Die! 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 Accompanied by the word die, the hunters from those forces turned into sand sculptures one by one. They flowed down from the sky. In the beginning they died one by one. Then there were 2, 3, 5. Then 10. Those people were dumbfounded and terrified at first. In the end, their faces were filled with horror. Because they had all reacted. The Oracle. What they encountered was the legendary Heaven's Oracle. Once the word was spoken, everything was destroyed. This was the Oracle. Only now did they understand that the most terrifying person in the world society was not their leader. It was this girl who looked pure and beautiful. Her eyes seemed to be able to speak, but she had never opened her mouth to speak. They all regretted it in their hearts. They were so regretful that their intestines had surpassed their master. If they had known this would happen, they would not have been given 10 mechas and a level 7 desolate hunter. Even if they had been given 10,000 mechas and a level 7 desolate hunter, they would not have dared to come. After all, the Oracle was an existence that could kill any enemy regardless of their level. Not to mention humans like them. Even heavenly gods were powerless in front of a Heaven's Oracle. After all, gods were created by the Creator. And the Oracle was a product of the Creator's mistake. The Oracle would not abide by any laws of physics, natural laws, or the laws of the universe. If they said they wanted you to die, you had to die. No one could stop them. They were just that unreasonable. In less than 10 seconds, the sky was completely silent. All the 20-odd people had turned into sand sculptures and flowed down. At this time, Happy could kill 10 desolate hunters at once. Seeing this, Emo's scalp went numb. And this was obviously far from Happy's limit. He could only kill 10 desolate hunters at once because there were only so many people here. If more forces came to attack, no one knew where Happy's limit was. At this time, Emo looked at Happy with the blood dragon's eye. Race, Oracle. Level 2. Ability, Die. Happy's level had reached level 2. A level 2 Oracle was already so terrifying. It was hard to imagine just how terrifying of an existence Happy would become when he reached a higher level in the future. At that moment, once everyone was killed, Happy seemed to have used up all his strength. His body fell weakly to the ground. Emo quickly hugged her. Happy. Happy did not react. Emo used his dragon will to check on her and found that her bodily functions were all normal. Only then did he feel relieved. With a thought, he sent Happy into the dragon's cave. Then he said to the crowd, "Back to the base." At this time, the energy in everyone's body had almost recovered. Following Mo Sure, he stepped on the hoverboard and flew in the direction of Hunting Island 1. Mo Sure complained that they were too slow. He said, "I'll go back first. Follow me later." In fact, if he wanted to, all he had to do was put these people into the dragon cave, and he could bring them all back. However, these people needed to grow. He couldn't protect them all the time. If that was the case, how could he still be the boss? Forget about being a father. After giving his instructions, Mo Sure used his dragon shadow step, which had reached the large success stage. He traveled 100 kilometers in a second and kept teleporting. In less than 20 minutes, he teleported back to the base. After settling Happy down, Mo Sure stayed by Happy's bedside. Until 2 days later, Emma, the little monk, and the other hunters came back. It was only then that Happy woke up, and Mo Sure sighed in relief. Just like the last time, Happy still could not speak after waking up. Furthermore, he had completely forgotten about what had happened before. Mo Sure took out a bottle of recovery potion and said, "Happy, Happy. Be happy. Drink it and you'll recover faster." Happy nodded obediently. After drinking the recovery potion, she gestured. "Brother Mo, did I kill again?" Mo Sure smiled, rubbed Happy's head, and said, "You killed all the bad guys. Besides, you protected me, Emma, and the others. Without you, it would have been very difficult for us to come back safely this time." When Happy heard that, he smiled happily. Her smile was as bright as the sun and was very infectious. She continued to gesture. "Brother Mo, then I will always protect you in the future." Mo Sure shook his head. "Every time you use the ability of the Oracle, you will faint for 2 or 3 days. It should be said that the ability of the Oracle is very harmful to my body. So if you can avoid using it, try not to use it." Happy nodded obediently. Yuzhou, Corpse Village. The village chief had returned to Corpse Village through the wormhole teleportation device. At this time, the higher-ups of several forces came to see him. The village chief was slightly impatient, but he still let them in. When the higher-ups saw the village chief, their expressions were not very good. "Village chief, it has been 2 days. The disciples we sent to ambush Mo Sure have not responded." Hearing this, the village chief's sunken eye sockets revealed a slightly surprised expression. Previously, he had asked an elder of Corpse Village to follow these people to ambush Mo Sure. In his opinion, that elder was a level 7 desolate hunter. With the help of other desolate hunters and more than 30 mechas, he could easily defeat Mo Sure. There was no problem in taking down the World Society. In addition, that elder did not like to use multifunctional watches. So in the past 2 days, he did not pay much attention to this matter. Unexpectedly, there was still a problem. He asked, "Can't you contact the disciples of the various forces?" The higher-ups of the various forces nodded. "We can't contact them no matter what. It has been 2 days. We can't contact them no matter what." The village chief pondered for a moment and asked, "Have you checked the ambush site?" Everyone nodded. "We have all been there. There are no traces of fighting there, nor are there any traces of the ambushers we sent. There are only traces of the people from World Society resting there." The village chief of Corpse Village was shocked again. Logically speaking, with the elder of Corpse Village holding the fort, there should not be any problems. He hurriedly called a few juniors in the village and 3 level 6 desolate hunters and ordered, "Let's go. No matter what, we must investigate this matter." The few of them quickly replied, "Yes." After these people left, the village chief looked at their backs and felt regret in his heart. That was 10 mechas and a level 7 desolate hunter. If something really happened, their corpse-chasing village would suffer a great loss this time. After all, even in Corpse Village, a level 7 desolate hunter was the top existence. After losing a top combat force, Corpse Village's strength dropped a lot. Despite this, Corpse Village's strength was still the best in Yuzhou. But falling was not as good as rising. Chapter 335. After Happy recovered, Mo Sure planned to increase his and the Sea Dragon's strength. The old man sent by the corpse village was a level 7 desolate hunter. This made him feel a great sense of danger. Although he had many trump cards, the price of each one was too high. As for Happy, the oracle, he could not let her use her ability casually. After all, every time she used her ability, it would cause her great harm. Even if she took a recovery potion, it would take at least 10 days for her to fully recover. Therefore, he had to increase his strength as much as possible so that he could crush other forces. To increase his strength, he did not need to go too far. There were many wild beasts in the sea around the first hunting island. There were wild beasts from level 1 to level 10. This morning, Mo Shi came to the southern coast. After flying for about 10 minutes, he found that level 7 and level 8 wild beasts had begun to appear in the sea below. Only then did he stop. With a splash, he plunged into the sea. He used his telekinesis to block the seawater. No seawater could get close to him within 10 meters. Not long after he entered the sea, a level 7 wild beast was already swimming toward Mo Shi. Mo Shi took a closer look. This level 7 wild beast was not an ordinary one. It was a level 7 wild beast that was quickly upgraded after being infected. Now that he was facing a level 7 wild beast, Mo Shi did not need any skills or tactics. He just threw a punch. Bang! Poof! The level 7 wild beast exploded. Mo Shi used its flesh and blood to create a virus doppelganger. Then he let this virus clone take his personal reservoir to the deeper parts of the sea. There were powerful mutated wild beasts and above there. The sea dragon clone was left there to be free to do whatever it wanted. He believed that it would not take long for its strength to increase. After Mo Shi blew up the level 7 wild beast with a punch, the smell of blood continued to spread. Soon, it attracted the other wild beasts around. These wild beasts immediately surrounded him. Mo Shi did the same as before in the second hunting ground. He still used his dragon's telekinesis to block out the extra wild beasts. However, there weren't just 10 desolate beasts within the dragon will barrier. There were only 2 of them. The higher the level of a desolate beast, the more likely it was to have strange abilities. Without understanding these desolate beasts, dealing with 10 of them at once was simply courting death. Even Mo Shi would have a hard time dealing with it if he didn't use energy. At this moment, the 2 desolate beasts attacked Mo Shi from the left and right. The body of one of the desolate beasts was constantly flashing with electricity. On the other desolate beast's thick tail, there was a 1-meter-long spike that was as thick as a thigh. The spikes were dark purple in color. It was obvious that there was poison on them. It swung its tail. Whoosh! A sharp spike shot towards Mo Shi. Mo Shi dodged to the side, dodging one of the spikes. But the second spike shot over. Then there was the third one, the fourth one, and it was endless. Mo Shi used Dragon Shadow Step and arrived behind the desolate beast's tail in 1 step. His left hand grabbed the desolate beast's tail while his right hand clenched into a fist. He threw out a punch. Bang! The desolate beast's tail was instantly broken. AOC! That desolate beast let out a frightened and angry roar. It turned around and its huge pincers were about to clamp down on Mo Shi. At the same time, the other desolate beast kept extending its tentacles, trying to grab Mo Shi. Mo Shi dodged to the side, dodging its claw. At the same time, he dodged to the abdomen of the desolate beast with spikes. He punched through its energy bubble with a single punch. That desolate beast immediately fell to the ground, motionless. Mo Shi dodged again and appeared in front of the desolate beast with electricity. He then kicked the desolate beast's energy bubble. Bang! A huge force was transmitted from Mo Shi's foot to the desolate beast's abdomen. Although it was separated by a thick layer of fat, the desolate beast's energy bubble was still shaken violently. It looked like it was about to burst. The desolate beast with electricity roared in pain and lowered its head to attack Mo Shi. But its agility was far from Mo Shi's. And its body was more than 100 meters long. It was impossible for Mo Shi's dragon will barrier to completely contain it. Most of its body was in the sea, so its agility was much lower than Mo Shi's. Mo Shi dodged its attack and attracted its attention. Then, he used Dragon Shadow Step to dodge again. He kicked its abdomen. Bang! This time, although its skin was still intact, the energy bubble in its abdomen had already burst. A huge amount of energy quickly leaped out of the energy bubble and flowed through its body. Bang 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 bang. Its body actually began to self-destruct. Bang 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 bang. In the end, it exploded into a huge pool of blood. Within half a kilometer, all the seawater was dyed red. Phew! Emo exhaled slightly. Challenging 2 level 7 desolate beasts above his level was indeed a little troublesome. However, the notification that appeared in his mind made him feel good. Killed 2 level 7 desolate beasts with your bare hands. Obtained 14 drops of Titan dragon blood. Actually, there were many people in this world who were not afraid of hardship or tiredness. What they were afraid of was that after toiling for half a day, they would end up with nothing. But Emo was not worried about this at all. Every time he killed a desolate beast, Titan dragon blood would enter his account. And other than the Titan dragon blood, he also received evolution points. This was very good. He checked his evolution points in his mind. 30 billion. Ever since the last upgrade, Emo had asked the system. The next upgrade required 100 billion evolution points. It was still very early. Next, Emo continued to kill these level 7 desolate beasts in the sea area. For half a month, Emo had been fighting in this sea area. At first, he only dealt with 2 level 7 desolate beasts at a time. Gradually, as he became more familiar with these desolate beasts, the number of desolate beasts he dealt with increased to 3, 4, 5. Facing desolate beasts 1 level higher than him, he could not deal with 10 at a time like before. But this was already very shocking. If other people saw Emo current battle, their jaws would definitely drop. Fighting above his level with his bare hands. This was already shocking enough. But he did not even use energy. He was a complete pervert. In half a month, Emo had already cleared all the level 7 desolate beasts within 100 kilometers. His level had also finally broken through to a level 7 desolate beast hunter. At the same time, the sea dragon clone had also risen from a level 5 desolate beast to a level 7 desolate beast in this half a month. But Emo knew that this was not enough. If he wanted to crush the corpse village, his strength still needed to continue to improve. The sea dragon clone also needed to continue to improve. At the same time, there should be more mechas in the base. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.